We're back. Not as our normal selves, not as a normal D&D stream that we do on Saturday, but we're gonna try something new today. Like you may see in the title, I think it's behind the tail, but I think Tony, you've misspelled. I think it says behind the talk right now, but that's okay. At least that's what it says on my screen. I don't know about you. But
yeah.
You might recognize some of us.
You saw nothing, Jon Snow.
No, we did see nothing. You might recognize some of us from our video. Tony and me, you can see from our video. I'm not sure if this is the first time Amber and Kimo appeared on camera for the stream, but I know Amber for sure has. Amber for sure has been on stream.
I don't remember. I don't think I was. Have I?
I'm not sure.
Maybe. I know I was here for one thing in the past.
When Amber and Ferris were on cam with the Siri thingy.
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
I remember stuff.
Yeah. And for the person that right now is called Brandon, that's Gabe.
That's indeed me.
It's not Brandon, don't worry.
Brandon from Long Rest. Brandon from Long Rest might be joining us later tonight. We will see.
He basically just finished hosting D&D, so yeah. No.
Yeah, we will see. Let the man rest.
Exactly.
Long rest, if you will. But hey,
on point.
But no. A soon TM. I see a soon TM from Long Rest Tavern in the chat. But no. But for those of you that have never seen us, just in case, I am Mark. I host Calamica's Chaos on Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. GMT +1. Tony is one of my players, and also my camera guy. Oh crap, the light.
I'm Tony. I host a stream on Saturdays. I'm hosting this stream right now because Mark wanted to do it, but he only has one screen.
And, I'm poor.
Yeah, little announcement also. I'm also going to be hosting a Call of Cthulhu campaign on here.
Yeah! Which we're very excited for.
Your own campaign.
I've heard some spoilers for it.
Oh, like what?
From Tony himself.
Oh, yeah.
I
heard some rumors too.
I heard some rumors that
I heard I'm going to be playing a massive loser, but
because the rumors is, I'm already going to throw it out here. The people are playing themselves. They are not playing characters. They're actually playing themselves. It's going to be the modern day era. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
I'm gonna die.
And definitely watch that.
After we're done with that campaign, a little spoiler, but Amber already knew it. I'm also going to be writing something else because that book is coming here soon. It's going to be the Avatar role-playing game.
Oh.
Cool.
And yes, I force people to start in the Kyoshi era because I want to start at the earliest as possible.
Next up, I point above me because that's where she is on my screen, but
I'm actually there to your side, but that's okay, Mark.
I think it's there. I think I'm pointing the right way.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah, and that is where that's Amber. Amber hosts our Friday games. We start at 6:30 at GMT +1, but we're not. That might not be a thing for the future because of internship. Like we might start later. We'll see. It'll be fine. And from there we have Ferris, our camera guy for Friday.
Yes. Hello. That is me. I do the quote-unquote camera stuff and streaming on Fridays. I also play Vittorio in Amber's campaign. And I do stuff, I guess, technically speaking.
And last, but not least, we have Gabe, who's joining us for
Hello.
today. And not Brandon.
No, not Brandon, Gabe. The guy that plays Tokus in Etharis in the Friday campaign. Sadly, I own no camera at this time in our year, so I will not be showing my face.
So I think we know what our first paycheck is going to get him again.
Hey!
Hey guys, we recently got paid out for our first affiliate payout, so gotta send Gabe a camera so we can go
Jesus Christ. Crowdfund me to get a camera.
Like a $15 webcam. It's not that expensive.
Literally, you can buy a fucking $5 Chinese one you can buy.
That's
for
what I have.
Yeah, exactly.
I wanted to see Gabe in pixel art.
Love it. I love pixel art. 8-bit. Nice.
But to continue on it, you might see in the middle of our overlay made by Amber, we're talking about the one D&D announcement, specifically the the UA.
Hello, Brandon.
Or Brandon, I because that's on my screen.
Nice. We're sharing a
Fix
space.
this for you.
This goes in here.
There you go.
Yeah, this is really
Both
fun
Gabe
and
and
fine
Brandon
at the same time.
It's fine. You can fix it. Don't worry. Well, there's no pressure.
Well, it's
Oh,
pressure
no.
for me because there's not enough space,
Well, no.
I
You
can
just
leave.
hide Gabe because there's no
leave
camera.
Gabe out.
for you.
Hide me in the shadows.
Put
Will
Gabe in the
do.
shadow.
Yeah, Amber. Yeah, I know that you wanted to since the start. I know that.
Been trying to kill you since the start.
Ah,
Of course.
Completely disregarded my existence. Unbelievable.
everything's breaking.
Oh, it's
no,
fine.
it's
It's
just
fine.
Brandon.
Why is?
I am also breaking. I think.
No, I think you're fine. I think you're fine.
Oh no, that's Brandon. Brandon's camera is
Taking a bit of time. It's slow. It has
He's
its
from really
ears.
far away.
Am I really though?
It's so loaded.
Brandon brought that Chinese fight
Outside of the house. Am I really that far away?
I don't even know why my camera isn't like opening.
Why do you think my
You
background
can-
is blurred out?
you can do it again and
Brandon's
like,
right there.
like turn off and on and then it might fix itself.
Can you believe it? Introduce this man as cameraman and everything because he does it all.
Let's see.
Okay, everything is fixed again.
I remembered. This is Brandon. I know which side to point. Here's for me. He's not there.
And
But
now this is the
that's-
actual Brandon.
I can't
Now
even see
it's-
myself, but anyway.
Now it's Brandon. We can't see you either, Brandon.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
I will work on this. Hello.
Like I said before, Brandon's from Long Rest. Their campaign hosts also on Saturday. Starts earlier than ours, though. I think
Yes. Around 4
don't know.
our time.
Around 4 p.m. GMT +1.
Just say CET.
That's what I have always done the GMT +1 because then I can remember which other time zones are
Just,
where and
just
how
use
late it is
CET
there.
because we're Central European time. We're Central.
It's Central European time. Yeah.
No, Reese, we Thanos snapped him.
We
Yeah,
had
exactly.
two
Just taking
orbiting
this one.
pixels. That's Brandon now. Too
It
bad.
wasn't even us. It wasn't me.
It was me.
Brandon, have you tried turning your camera off and on?
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Tried unplugging it and plugging it back in.
Slap it real hard. It usually
Brandon,
works.
we're all IT specialists in this room.
Are we now?
I have seen the IT
Are we?
crowd.
I am.
Oh, you are.
I
Interesting.
am technically. I have a degree that says IT on it.
I have a degree that says cameraman editing, and look at me, I work with food.
We go found a place.
Hey, there we
fuck.
have
God,
now
I'm
I can
good.
see a piece of Brandon. That's great.
Me there.
And we've messed it all up again.
Why can I see him on the stream but not on Discord? This is so fucking.
Because
I can- I
because
can-
maybe
Yeah,
you need
you
to click back
click.
into Discord, because maybe you have to
Yeah.
pop it out and then you check a screen on.
Yeah, he's right there. Look at him.
Yeah.
There you go. That's a
now we're all
common Discord
together.
bug.
And now I'll introduce. We're going to be talking about the UA released by released with the one D&D thing. For most of you, you probably know to some extent that this means that it's going to be the next edition of D&D. Effectively, that's what they're going to try to make. The one and final D&D is what they're gonna. The one D&D. That's what they're making. And that's what the UA is released. So I would say we should not try to compare it too much to 5e, but also we should still completely compare it to 5e because that's just what it
That's
is.
how we did also with when 4e got released to compare it to 3.5. Oh wait, now I'm
I mean-
old. Never mind.
I mean, yeah, it's literally 5e, but a little bit different. Like it's 5.5.
And then when 5e got released, we compared it to 3.5 again because
Yeah,
nobody
because
wanted to talk
no-
about
no one
4e.
Because
Yeah.
4E doesn't exist.
But hey, they wanted to make it backwards. They want to make it backwards compatible with 5e, so you're gonna have to keep the context.
Keep
there,
it
you know?
compared.
Like Overwatch 2, you know?
Oh, wait,
Don't
I don't
talk
know.
about that. We don't talk about
I
that.
don't think we need to bring that up, to be honest.
Yeah, no, we don't. We don't.
We're
We
gonna
don't.
bring it up. We're gonna bring it up. We.
I was gonna say something, but I completely forgot. So too bad.
Jeez.
Oh no, I want to say trigger warning. Opinions
Oh, no.
might become. No. There might be some heavy opinions. We have to some extent discussed some of these
Yeah,
changes.
we might
in
shoot
our
each
own
other,
dis-
stuff
no,
like that.
not like that. In our own Discord channel. Link down below. Join it if you want.
I would never shoot you. You're my best friend.
Thank you, bro. Thank
I
you.
would shoot Mark though.
Appreciate.
No hesitation. Point blank.
No, but again, it might get heated. We're gonna discuss some opinions. We're gonna keep it civil, but there might be opinions you completely disagree with. You're free to say that in chat, or there might be opinions you completely agree with. Try to keep it simple. Everyone here, but also in Twitch.
Mark is also doing his best to keep it civil already, so
yeah.
He failed at it, but we still.
What do you mean? I failed at it. What?
It's fine.
No,
Great
The
job.
moment you
You're doing
said
great, Mark.
trigger warning, I was like, we're already getting in dangerous waters
I am
here.
already triggered.
I mean,
If
that's you need to say that, right?
That's
If I
good.
say-
That's good,
if
Mark.
I
You're
say
right.
Trigger
F word,
warning in
it's
the
not
title.
my fault. It's Mark's fault.
If you say the what word?
F word.
It's okay, we're 18 plus Twitch.
Okay.
We're
Nice.
18 plus,
Love it.
That is correct.
I hope we
Right.
just don't get banned for some certain stream we just got banned for.
I don't know. I don't keep up with Twitch culture, so I am not
Same.
sure. I have heard of it, but that's too far out of the ballpark. So I've made a list of the points that we're going to be discussing. We're basically going to try to follow the UA in basic categories. We're not going to look at too much of the specific things. If you have something specific you want to bring up, say it, and we're going to discuss it. But we're just going to be following the basically the categories that D&D follows. I have some points for if no one knows anything to talk about. I'll bring those up. We can discuss it and what your opinions are. I'll mostly be asking your opinions. If you have none, feel free to say that as well. So, to start with, I have the document here open for me, and one of the biggest changes that so far we've seen, there's 3 big changes to race, background, and feats. I think those are the predominant changes that are currently in this document. And I want to start with races. Now, I think most of you already know some of the changes. You've looked through it. Some of us, we've heavily discussed it. But one of the first things that you will notice is that right now, the races have no ASIs anymore. ASIs have been removed from races and added to backgrounds. Now, I know some people are very excited about this, and I know others are not as excited about this. But yeah, I want to say, feel free to let me know what you think. I know that Brandon, you have an opinion on it. I don't know if you want to start us off.
Yeah, sure. Put me on the spotlight. I think races have always had this kind of, and this is where I guess our last conversation started off with, the fact that races have always had the binding to their ability scores, right? So like ideology, or you would always think of, for example, I'm going to use the most normal one that we can come up with, like orcs are naturally stronger, or maybe gnomes are more intelligent, or very stereotypical things that are attached to their character. So we came across the discussion point of something along the lines of, if these changes come to happen where the races are no longer bound to their ability scores, then you can no longer have this kind of overarching story of a character like an orc being a wizard, because before, an orc who was a wizard was kind of having this fight of, orcs are naturally supposed to be, I guess, less intelligent than other races, by the way, because the way that they work is more physical, right? So if you were to have a character that was an orc, but then you decide to make them a wizard who functions off of the intellect ability score, then you're having this kind of battle between what makes them that race, as well as, even though they were born less intelligent than anyone else, they really pushed through and became a wizard regardless, right? That was kind of like the discussion that you put forward, I believe.
Yeah, the discussion there was something around that lines, indeed, where it's, stereotypes versus if it's free, then those stereotypes no longer are something you can fight against.
So
that was
So my point to this, although I do believe, don't get me wrong, I will say primarily, initially, before anything else, I do find it weird that ability scores are no longer attached to races. I do think that is weird. It does feel a bit out of place.
Yep.
But my initial point is that ability scores shouldn't dedicate or completely overpower a character's story, right? You can, even if the ability scores aren't directly attached to that race, I still think that you can still have that character. Let's say you can have a +2 to whatever you want and a +1 to whatever you want, because that's what they've changed, right? That's what they've now decided to do, right?
I mean, well, yeah, that's how it is now, but in the UA, that's no longer how it is.
No, that they're attaching that to
but it's also no longer that free flowing. The background has set scores again instead of the flexible that it is now with custom lineage.
Yeah. So if we're like focusing primarily just on the races and how it is like right now, where you can have a +2 to whatever you want and a +1 to whatever you want, thanks to TTRPGS and onwards, then I still think you can still have that storyline of having an orc who's who's naturally less intelligent, but that obviously depends on the setting that they're in, right? I don't think having the freedom of being able to place ability scores wherever you wish tears away any fantasy for any player. I think it makes it easier and more accessible for any player. I think someone coming in and then being said, okay, look at these numbers. You don't know what they mean maybe at the moment, but this means that very base knowledge, your strength is this, blah, 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 blah. Then at the very least, you can just tell that person, okay, pick your race, and they get to pick whichever one they fancy and thinks looks coolest. And then afterwards, I can then tell them, all right, now add a +2 and add a +1 to whatever scores you want. They're not bound to their choice of a race because of their ability score, and I think that's a positive.
Okay. Anyone else that wants to bring up their side of the story on this? If you're in,
I mean, the intent behind it, it's that basically what you just outlined. It seems like new people who come in, they can just kind of choose whatever they think sounds interesting or looks good, and then you deal with the ASI after the fact. And it was kind of the same with the design choice last time when they decided that you can put a +2 and a +1 into whatever. They wanted people to try out different races and not have to, I want to play this, but that means I'm going to have to go with this race because of the ASI I get. But at the same time, at least to me, it sort of does the opposite for, well, I guess, players that have played more. Because then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I can put my ASI, my +2 and +1, into whatever I like. Okay, but why would I then, I guess, bother trying out this race when I can just use this race that just suits me just fine?
That is that's a point that I have to agree on. I agree with Brandon by saying that binding your choice by static ASI on races is something I don't like of D&D. But at the same time, being able to choose whatever ASI you want from any race you want will allow you, not you, but specifically players that tend to min-max their characters, to always pick the most optimal choice for the character, instead of maybe going on something less effective, but maybe more flavorful. And that's, normal D&D puts a limitation to that by saying you can only have these stats. But if you then have whatever you want in whatever ability score, a +2 and a +1, then you can pick the same race every time in different classes and different concepts, maybe just because that race is mechanically better than anyone else.
You want T1?
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, yeah.
You want T1?
Yeah, I mean, I will say Monsters of the Multiverse is what fixed it, I think. But I will say, great great change. I mean, they were really strong. The gnomes somehow got buffed, but that's not what we're talking about right now. I think we can both agree, and that's why I don't want to stick too long on it, because we've already talked to it extensively, and we've shown our opinions on it in the Discord. One thing I want to ask you guys, I want to see if you guys actually noticed it, is that halves don't exist anymore. There's no half elves anymore. There's no half orcs anymore. They don't exist anymore. What you now do is just take the race you like most, and then just grab the other race and reduce your lifespan and height and all those things with it. But you just are one race. There's no half anymore. What do you guys think about that?
I think you are right. There's no direct.
Direct. You can still be.
It doesn't say. Yeah, it doesn't say anywhere. You're a half elf, but I think it is insinuated, right? Like, I think the option to become a half anything is now given to you. I'm not really sure how I really feel. I'm not sure if I'm impartial to it, but I think now you are given the option of just very much like you said, just literally almost like an alchemical potion, just grabbing two sides of either genes and just slamming them together, right? It's like, I'm going to be a half orc, half tiefling. I don't know how that's going to work, but I'm just going to shove them together. I'm going to be a half centaur, half orc, or whatever, right? Like, I'm just going to shove them together, and then I will call myself half, I don't know, centaur, half orc, or whatever you ended up deciding to, call it, right?
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it, to be honest. I don't think I'm actually too bothered about the existence of it, right? I don't see the negatives, but, well, I lie. I guess, much like we uprised before, this idea of min-maxing, right? That does provide more grounds to min-max on. I'm going to take the better speed from this race, and I'm going to take the better racial trait from that race. Yeah.
Well, I want to bring into there. I don't know if you've read, but they have like this little paragraph on it, and basically what you do is you don't mix them as traits. You just pick one race. That's your traits, and you then take sort of. Let's say you're an elf. You have a long lifespan, but you half your lifespan, and then add half of the other race's lifespan to it, and that's how long you live. It has this very specific little thing.
Yeah, I think
right. Okay.
It says, yeah. Basically, what you said, you got two different races as your parents. You decide that, for example, okay, I get the halfling traits, racial traits, but hey, my dad was a gnome, so I have, maybe I have pointy ears. And then, the lifespan, as you said as well.
Oh, well, if that's the case then, which I must have just overlooked, then I guess that does minimize the min-maxing aspect of it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I don't see a negative to it. I think that provides more creativity to anyone, right? Like, just makes people more creative to smash things together.
Yeah, I agree. The only one I am a little bit disappointed into, because I feel like they are really in a category on their own, is half-elves. I think the fact that half-orcs no longer exist, I'm totally fine with. Half-orcs were always, especially in current D&D 5e, half-orcs were always kind of odd, because a half-orc was better than a full orc.
I think that's the case with most of the half. Like, people always pick a half-elf over an elf, because half-elf, 4 ASIs, half-orc, crit better than an orc can. It's like, for some reason the half-races were just much better than their non-human parents. I guess also better than their human parent if their parent wasn't a human variant, but so I won't miss that. But
no, I think it's done cleverly. It saves you a lot of headache. Like, you no longer have to make half this, half that. I don't know if you've ever guys looked into the half orc and the half elf had a baby. I think that's what it's called. It's like a DM's Guild. I actually quite enjoy it after I've taken a bigger look in it. I think it allows for creativity. Yeah, it allows for a lot of creativity, but it provides such a weird mix of racial traits that it's not really, balanced. But I really like what they do now. Like you said, there's just positives to it. If you're a half-breed, you just gotta pick a race. And that's the dominant part of your half-breedness.
Yeah.
So I like
overall,
it a lot.
I think that's a good change overall. I mean, I think some people, and I have seen people talk about this, and I've watched some people do it anyway, but I think some people were already doing this. I think there were some people that were ahead of the curve that were almost like already doing this, like, oh, well, I actually wanted to be a half tiefling, half whatever else, and they just were kind of doing it anyway. So I guess adding in the option and just making it official makes sense.
Yeah, I think we can all pretty much agree here that I think it's a good choice. I think it's a great choice. One of the, I won't even say one of the few because I actually really think that this UA does a lot of things right. I might not agree with all of it, like this splitting from the ASIs from races to backgrounds, but I think they did a lot of things right. Like I think it's a good direction where do you need to go into. And how everyone here knows how quickly I hate UA, so for me to say I think it's a good thing is a pretty good step.
Many of
already.
us have this opinion, but for background, like most of us who are here and who have been DMs here started DMing on this server. How long was it? 3-4 years ago almost?
4 years ago in a West March.
Yeah,
In a West
March.
Marches, and we had 100 players at one point, and the amount of min-maxers that you deal with on a daily basis who are doing nothing but trying to exploit this system makes you really tired. Makes you lie awake at night thinking about all the UNTs that they play and all the half-orcs that they built and all the orcs that are druid barbarians that can take 1 million damage, and you're like,
it's it's
when
okay,
the first
Harry, we
one
love
shape
you.
goes down and then the second one arrives.
No. For context, Tony, Harry, one of the players in the West Marches, basically played the barbarian, and all of our DMs hated it because we could not do shit to him. Like it was just that.
It turned into, okay, this player is on this quest. He's a barbarian. Yeah, cool. I either need to put in stuff that will literally kill other people, or I need to put in intelligent creatures that will just ignore him. But obviously, option number 2 means the player goes like, okay, they're not attacking me. What am I? What am I? Am I a joke? What am I doing here?
No, I feel like we could have a whole different podcast of just players versus DM titles.
That would be another whole thing.
I think that would be a whole other thing.
Guaranteed. No, but to get back on track, I think we all kind of agree that this change is pretty good. I think this half change is great. I had many players be like, "Oh, can I be a half this? Can I be a half that?" And I'm like, yeah, but also I'm lazy. I don't want to make a combination.
Yeah, giving a rule set to actually make custom, half breeds is really interesting because now instead of having to make everything on the fly, you actually have a system that you can follow, which is simple because this is a UA, but it's already interesting.
Yeah, I think it's personally great.
Yeah, I think if they shoved this into place and just said, I don't know, let your DM figure out how it would work, it'd be an absolute nightmare. But thanks to them actually putting rules in place, I like it.
Just that one sentence was enough for me for them to say, you are just a normal person of that race, but you live less long. But that's just enough to just seal the thing watertight, and your players who are like, yeah, but the book says this. I'm like, well, the book says this, so this is what you are now.
Yeah.
Not that I have to deal with that, luckily, but
one thing I have is I have there's not a lot I have to say about races. Again, we're talking about changes in whole. I know some of us disagree with some things. Human, but that's.
Let's not start.
But we're gonna start about that a bit later, because inspiration's also gonna come into this. But also, but let's continue on track. Is one thing I noticed is that all races have a variant if it's possible, being small or medium. But for some reason, humans can be small, 2 to 4 feet tall, but dwarves can't. They are medium. Dwarves are medium.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
I've been wondering about it because I think was it tieflings? There are other races that can only
also be small.
Tiny tiefling.
There are other races that can.
Tall tiefling.
It's like, what
So
are you
cute.
suffering from? Nanism? I can understand that. It's interesting, but. Who would want to play a 2 feet tall tiefling?
That's just like 3-4 feet tall. So you can be like.
I mean, with the tiefling and but with the tiefling and the what they call them, the ardlings, I can understand that because they are basically half breeds always. Yeah. They are like in this case should be a half celestial, half halfling.
I want to mention that ardlings later as well because I. Yes.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing. Yeah.
I can't be the only one who started playing D and who thought to myself, dwarves are small. because that's what they're depicted at in fantasy. And then I come to it that they are medium, and now they are
100%.
permanently medium.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
They're
no,
the tallest
100%.
people around.
And I saw someone that made a very valid point about this. I'm talking specifically about this human and dwarf like weird mix-up that they're doing here. But I remember someone mentioned on Twitter, as soon as the day that this came out, someone said like a question on Twitter, and they said, technically, if a human is like 2 to 4 foot tall, isn't that syndrome called dwarfism?
Yeah.
And the dwarf, which is an actual race, is taller than you.
I mean, it is a weird change.
So I don't understand why.
Dwarves, you see, they are perfect. They are like so perfectly stout that they must like naturally remain this sort of cubic shape, and they just can't be 1 by 1 feet. So it's got to be 4 by 4.
If I was, all I'm saying is, if I were to ever run this new rule set, that would be the first change that I would make out of the top of my head. Is dwarves would be able to classify themselves as small.
Yeah.
If humans can't, then dwarf can.
Yeah. Personally, I think all races should have that ability. Like, I know that for some races might not make a lot of sense, but especially with that half-half rule, just give all races the ability to be small. Like, mechanically being small is literally just a disadvantage. There's no benefits to it.
Why can I not play a kobold-looking small dragonborn that keeps getting mistaken for a kobold?
Oh, that is so cool.
You know, with gigantism.
It's
just like a human.
So I can be a small orc? I can be a smork?
A smork would be great. 4 feet of packed aggression. I love it.
Yeah.
And then they reduce
yeah.
you so you're like tiny. You just go run at people and you crit them anyway.
Yeah, and run at people with adrenaline rush, you go like, ah!
Yeah, no, that's just one thing I noticed, and I'm like, it should be. I think all races should have the opportunity to be small or medium. I don't think you should limit that.
Thank you very
Also,
much.
one of the things I liked most about the multiverse monsters, the new stuff that they're doing, they're basically saying everything can be everything. You know, I think all races should be small or medium.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can kind of agree with that. Yeah.
There's no mechanical benefit to being small. There's only negative.
Yeah, there's
Like,
literally only negative.
if you want to be small, actually, I played in a 3.5v5v matchup once, and the DM gave me a +10 to stealth because I was tiny, and I was like,
yeah.
Well,
I'll take it.
that was normal back in the day for 3.5.
Right? I was like, oh, I rolled this. A 27. Okay, that's a 27 for my stealth, I guess.
Like, I played a pixie once in 3.5 and I had a +15 to stealth because I was so fucking tiny, nobody could see me.
Well, I think that's a good
There's
point.
no benefit to being small.
No, that's a good point because that's what my next point's going to be. I've written down creature types and size and speculation because I don't know if any of you've kept up, but the sizes of races have always been a huge split up in the D&D community. And I know that because I think if I'm about to say it next, we're going to see the clear split up. But I know some people really want Races of the Coast to make, for example, a large race. To make people finally be able to be a large creature instead of medium.
Yes.
Or tiny. And I would hate that as a DM. I'm going to say why, but... do you think they're gonna finally do that?
Like, here is something. Wait a second. Let me just double check what I'm about to say before I actually say it. So
I'm doing the same exact thing.
I'm literally looking up the UA Centaur as we speak because I think wasn't there one that was a large one?
Carry on talking amongst yourselves whilst I look this up before I make a fool out of myself.
Yeah. No. Okay. And with that, one thing I know they're gonna do. I mean, I doubt they're gonna step off of it, but it's creature types. We've seen now that Wizards of the Coast is starting to play around with player races being something else than humanoid, just something else, which I have made my opinion very clear about. I don't like it. It gives so many buffs to that player that others don't have for no reason at all.
Does it?
Yeah. What I mean with that is, for example, the fairy is a fae, pure fae, which means that to suggest them or dominate them, you at least need a 5th level spell. You can't do dominate person because they're a fae, not a humanoid. All those spells don't work because you're not a humanoid.
I see what you mean. Okay.
Yeah, I was about to say I was confused at first, but now I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I figured out my little issue. Yeah. I guess this might be slightly controversial. This is what you just said, Mark. In my world, if you play as a Minotaur, you are large. You can't be any smaller than large. You just are.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
Do you get the buffs? Do you get the perks of being large? Like
Yeah.
twice the weapon die?
yeah, if you have a large
no,
weapon,
you
it
just
gives
classify
double
as
weapon.
large for the token size purposes. It doesn't
Yeah.
have mechanical value behind it.
Yeah,
It's-
so I think that's the general problem that people have with large races, is that mechanically speaking, they would get twice the damage, which makes them very large. Like I have this race called the Ulkani, and they're these huge horned people who lives in the mountains, and it took me months for me to approve this race because I was just going back and forth, and I'm like, these guys deal a lot of damage.
Yeah, I remember.
They are very large. They deal a lot of damage if someone makes like a fighter or something with them, you know, like
It's also.
Go on.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just gonna say, there's also always the thing of like, okay, I am now large, so I cover a larger area. Okay, I now have a reach weapon. What are you gonna do about it? Which is,
You have a large reach weapon.
yeah, you have a large reach weapon.
are
Yeah.
my favorites.
I
The
personally,
wizard enlarges me.
Oh,
That-
And
that's
now I am
even
huge
better.
and I
Now
grapple
you're
the
huge.
Tarask and I choke him the fuck out.
love it. You love, yeah, love
I
it.
think they are not gonna like make a large or tiny race anymore because they learned a lot from 3.5 actually. Because in 3.5
Have they?
there were a lot of like weekly games just like hosted just like everywhere, just at local clubs, and like I used to play a half Minotaur in a pickup game. Half Minotaurs are large. They have a +6 to strength.
Yeah.
And that's
Well-
also was like they after that they were like, okay, it was from a magazine, so it was official. But they were like, after this, we're not putting that shit anymore in our games because it
Yeah,
broke
no,
a lot of stuff.
it is. I've played my very first character I've played in a real D&D campaign. Godar, love him. He was a large Goliath. Like he was a large race.
Damn.
Shit broke. Not just that, but you also have to realize a large creature makes some of your dungeons not doable because they're large.
man.
Any place that
Yeah.
a medium creature has to squeeze through, your large character can't get through because they're quite literally too large.
Which is kind of like.
How do you feel about that, like, for a story, though? Like, do you think
I mean,
that's unfair? I'm not posing my own opinion on this one, just asking to be, like, creative subject. But if you do have a character that chooses to be large, and you tell them, well, these are the implications of being large, is the fact that maybe you're not going to be able to fit through places, obviously, like, very much obviously.
I feel
And
like
when it comes
that's,
along to the point where you do go into a dungeon, and they can't walk through the tiny tunnels because they are too big, then is that something that you would be like kind of willing to avoid and just say, oh, you can squeeze, or are you just going to like accept the fact, no, you made this decision, now you guys have to come around with another option to fix this solution, fix this problem?
I feel like the size itself is a what I think personally is a counterbalance to the benefits that a large race gets, because if you think about it, like in even early levels of the campaign, large size creatures get different bonuses between carrying capacity, squares, grappling with larger creatures, and especially the infamous second die of damage on melee weapons. But at the same time, as you mentioned, they have a much harder time trying to go through dungeons and other spaces because the world is shaped around humans, around medium-sized creatures. So besides squeezing pretty much most of the time, which means mechanical disadvantages, it's also the living cost. They eat 4 times as much as a normal medium creature, so you need 4 times as much rations, 4 times as much water and supplies. And as you very well put it, if you stumble upon a dungeon that maybe like a dwarf mine or a stronghold, your large-sized 12-foot Minotaur either is going to have to crawl through the entire thing, and they're going to get attacked at advantage pretty much the entire time. Sucks to be you, my guy. Enjoy your D12 more on a great axe. Or
Crawl through the dungeon.
yeah, or you
Yeah.
ask your wizard to put you a medium size because that's what has to happen.
You
I mean,
polymorph
like-
me into a snail.
I mean, like, I get your point, but I think that's just all of those things are just. It creates a hassle for both player enjoyment and DM, because as a DM, you don't want to give your player only benefits for their choice, but are you really going to tell a player, can't go in here. You're too tall. Sit this one out.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Like,
that's true.
That's why I don't think they should ever do that.
There needs to be a balance in all of these things. Like, when we first started playing Etharis, I told you guys, humans are the dominant race. They've nearly eradicated every other race, either enslaved them, driven to the extinction, or just told them to go, F themselves. And you would experience racism if you didn't choose a human. And so people chose the not human option.
Not
And
of us
so-
were humans at this time.
Things are like nice now in the arc that we're in because they're in an enclave with other adventurers who have like a broad world view and they are hanging out with other people who are also ostracized from society. But that wasn't always the case. Like, first village they got to after they escaped, they said, "What are you, some sort of ugly lizard folk?" And everywhere that Mark went with his dragonborn, he had to pay double or
He had to
triple
pay
the
more
price
money.
for
Oh,
everything.
that was great. That was a great moment.
They would literally, when Mark went somewhere, they would say, "For you, 25 gold pieces," and then someone else would go and buy the same thing, and they would say, "Oh yeah, 5 gold pieces," and then Mark would just be there like twiddling his stuff.
Please, sir, can I have a ration? Yeah, it's 50 platinum.
I think that's what I like about it. I think that provides so much flavor to the world, right? Like, I think
100%.
I think these things that really, and this kind of is going to hopefully tie us back into the main topic at hand, but I think that is what brings races their uniqueness, right? There's a huge talk right now about D&D and making races unique. I think that is like one of the biggest topics right now and one of the biggest discussions between like how races are changing is like being unique. I think those are the things that really settle whether the world makes the race feel unique. And I think that's the key, right? The world needs to make that race feel unique.
Yeah, they have to have an impact on pretty much the world that you live in. I think that Amber really does well, and that's why I like Etharis so much, is that wherever you go, you notice that a race or a multitude of race has left an imprint, and you can feel it. Here we are in Blacklaw, and we explore the mountain a bit. You have rock gnomes, you have the gnomes of Violet Falls that left a sizable print, not only because they have this secret lost city that everyone longs to find and kind of burn to the ground, but their belongings, their inventions that, were made hundreds of years ago, even though their gnomes are all lost, now are spread throughout the mountains and people still use them, still look for them. Same things for, Dragonborns of Ember Karim, same things for the elves, the dark elves of Torleil. There's plenty of these signs that, being part of a race doesn't only imply, yes, you can only sleep for 4 hours or long rest, but it also has many implications in the story that make you feel unique in your own way.
I'm gonna
100%.
I agree with everything. Again, I have not made it silent that I consider Amber the best DM I've had so far, but I will, including myself. But no, to continue to get back on topic. Yeah, to get back on topic real quick. The next thing is background. I do know you want, Amber. You wanted to say something about the what are they called, the Ardlings?
The Ardlings. I really want to be a human with like a big toad head. Like,
no, please, fucking Asimers, look at what they did to my boy.
I can just read
in
it.
my tux with my frog head, like.
I can just read my past of Chrono Trigger being Toad's the hero.
I mean, I like that they made it something unique. I never liked how personally to me ASMR were always super basic. Like, I've had players ask me before, "Oh, can I be an ASMR but have normal eyes?" I'm like, no. That's literally the only way people can tell you're an ASMR.
ASMR with normal eyes. I played an ASMR with normal eyes for 4 years.
I know, but I hate it.
So human, nobody knows that I'm ASMR.
Yeah, it's personally I don't like it. I like tieflings, of course. Hey, and who doesn't like tieflings?
I think I really like the Ardlings. I don't know, it's not even so much about their traits or whatever they get, but just the image of this humanoid shape with this big animal head.
No,
It's just really, I love
Here's
it.
a question for us DMs then. Is Ardling going to replace Azimar in your world, or will you have both coexisting?
I think that's difficult. I think unless they release something that is the ASMR, I will use Ardlings as a suggestion. I think it's hard. I will probably use them. I'm not sure.
I'm like leaning towards a more either they
Alternate.
can coexist, they can alternate, or maybe Asimar will go to just being some sort of like fallen, like they have in Grim Hollow. They have these downcast angels that are
Yeah.
literally like cast out of the celestial realm, but they are not powerful enough to be like a Solar
Yeah, those are
strutting
metal
about.
as hell. I
Yeah.
love them.
Well, then we come to finally the next topic.
Controversial.
I wouldn't completely call it controversial. We're getting back to backgrounds.
I don't like them.
You get ASIs with it. You get a feat with it. I am going to start this time. I'm going to say what I like and what I dislike about them, and I'd like everyone to do the same if after it, or if you want to at least.
Yeah.
Personally, I think assigning the ASIs, despite how much I want them to be in the races, I think for the future of D&D, it's a good thing. Personally, I think it's a good thing. I like that they're set. I never liked the free-flowing ones. I like that they are set. It allows the Wizards of the Coast to make two similar things, but then give them slightly different bonuses. That's pretty much my biggest like. My biggest dislike is that they made it so that every background, every single one, has a language, a tool proficiency, and a feat. And of course the skills you get. But you know how now you can have or two languages, or two tool proficiencies, or a tool proficiency in language? That's no longer a thing. It's always tool proficiency, language, two skills. All of them. That's the part I dislike the most. The feats, I would like to save for the feat discussion. That each of these backgrounds get a feat. I would like to save that for the feat discussion. So,
Okay.
what do you all?
I mean, yeah, like I'm kind of the same thing here. I'm like, okay, I mean, it's kind of cool in a way, but also, no, I don't really like it. Having the ASIs tied to it is, I don't know. I don't really like it that much. And the fact what you also said about that is just set now. It's like, yeah, so anyway, here's your tool and language, and yeah, on literally every background that you get that. And then obviously the fact it feels weird that everyone gets a feat. And even weirder, but hey, we can discuss that later as well when we talk about the feats. That human variant, I mean, normal humans are technically human variants now, so you will get 2 feats when you make them.
I'd like the reason why I asked to save it for next time is because I do think feats have changed a lot, and that's something that deserves its own discussion.
I mean, that's
true. Yeah, I think we have a lot to talk about when it comes to that feat, especially with the human thing. But I agree. I think we should leave that to feats for now.
What I don't like the most about the stuff is the languages mostly, because with me always like what it was with 3.5 and 5e, you have common and uncommon languages. Now everybody is just freaking acolyte. They can all talk like an angel. Like what the hell? Like this is just for a certain race, and for certain kind of people, and now everybody just talks celestial. Like,
and then also thieves can't. You can also just get that from your background.
Yeah.
You're like
that's actually something I really do like personally.
And also like everybody like cultists can just start talking abyssal and like what the hell?
Yeah. I'd like to quickly come back to the Thieves' Cant. The reason I like that you can get Thieves' Cants from background, because to me it made no sense that, the language of thieves was rogue specific. Like, if I'm a fighter criminal, I'd like to speak Thieves' Cant, but I would never be able to.
Yeah, I mean,
that's why I like that.
I agree with Mark on this point. I think Thieves' Cant being attached to a background rather than your class makes so much more sense. You can have a different skill set and still be a thief. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to be like a rogue. So I agree with Mark on that point completely.
I think on the base 5e, I actually do agree. I think from where I'm coming from is that what I'm currently working on is really way too long of a handout again for changing Thieves' Cant and how it works for rogues, and that they can have these like ciphers and codes that they can share with their with their group and stuff, and so then it becomes more of a a unique thing for rogues. But I completely understand.
I will say I also do agree with Tony. I don't like that somehow 5e's trying to shove all the uncommon races, like what they call exotic races, into normalcy. Because what they are also doing, in my opinion, is that they're trying to move away from the racism aspect, which I completely agree. But guess what they then do? You're a farmer, halfling for you, gladiator. You must know Orcish. I'm like,
Kind of weird.
Yeah.
You saying a doctor can't be a woman?
Yeah, so oh my god. So in terms of, I'm just gonna give my opinions on like the overall all of backgrounds and touch on a few points. I think backgrounds, I agree. I think for me it's initially really weird to attach ability scores to backgrounds, but the more I thought about it, there are parts of it that make sense, right? You as a person, if we're talking like just as a being, you naturally increase. If I'm going to try and like imitate RPG elements into real life, you naturally increase an ability score based on what you do every day. Someone who's a bricklayer who builds houses is going to be physically stronger. Someone who, I don't know, has to do a lot of research and do lectures is probably going to be more intellectually inclined than someone who isn't, right?
yeah,
So,
you know what? Oh, good.
No, go for it.
So well, what I was going to suggest is what a thought that came to me. One thing I would really enjoy is if to kind of give both sides an aspect is that you get a racial stat, which is like the minor stat, the +1, which can't be the same as your other stat. So you get your racial bonus, which is like +1 strength or +1 intellect, and then you have your background bonus, which would have been the +2 con, +2 charisma, and that way you would you'd have a lot more freedom and you get that uniqueness back, but you also get that races still kind of like matter to a minimum extent, but they still do in ASIs. I always thought that might be like a solution, a good midway point between the two.
How much do you think that would complicate it for newbies?
I don't think
These-
it would too much. Like the only rule you'd have to implement is, or you don't. I mean, nowadays we roll, or most people roll, and this rule doesn't matter. But would be that you can't have a +3 in your beginning on one thing. But I think it wouldn't be much too different. Like you'd have a race that is +1 dex. Your background gives you +2 this.
Okay,
It would be the same
yeah,
as
I
now.
see that.
Instead of background giving +2 and +1, you'd have +2 from background, +1 from race.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that. I kind of like that idea actually.
And in my opinion, I just also see the problem with going with min-maxers also. Like you just see like monks going sailor or urchin. You just because 2 dex and 1 wisdom. You see this going that. You just see the same type of going over and over again.
Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
solve the problem of the blank races again, because instead of putting, your ASI in your race, you still have your blank card. You can choose whatever you want, and then you just need to pick that one background that you need. And since all backgrounds give you pretty much the same benefits, true proficiency, skill proficiency, language, and feat, you have more or less the same result every time.
That is why I actually really like the build your background, and that is me because I'm a very free spirit in the sense, like I was talking before about the +2 to something and the +1 to something else at Liberty. That is why I really like the build your background. I'm not too inclined to like the acolyte has to be +2 wisdom, 1 intelligent. It has to be calligrapher's tools and so on and so forth. I like the idea of your background being what you want it to be. That eliminates people min-maxing a certain background just for the stats that they get from it, right? It completely eliminates it. Instead, you're left with players wanting to choose a background because that's what they think will actually fit their story. At least that's how I see it. Like, I think saying, okay, well, you know what, build your background. You can be, I don't know, an acolyte, but you don't necessarily have to have a +2 wisdom and +1 intelligence. You can have a +2 in this and a +1 in that, and you can just be an acolyte because you think that your character as a background fits really well if he was like a devoted service up to the temple or something, right? I think that has some level of creativity that allows players to make choices that impact the character as a being rather than a min-max.
Oh, and I somewhat agree with that. I don't like the freedom. I know a lot of people, like I am in the point of you don't need a +2 in your main stat to be a good character. I mean, hell, I'm gonna give for those of you that watch Etharis, if Zarius ever dies, my backup. His highest stat is 14, and I think he has like 3 stats at least in the negative with 1 a 6. like his stats are
You
hot
rolled really
garbage,
bad.
and I'm really excited to play him. Like he is so bad. Like his skills suck. Like all of them suck. But I'm super excited to play him because people, I feel like, overestimate that how much that +1 matters. I mean, you can always have a 15 in your main stat. Like that's why I liked races and the going against your race thing, because you're going against the main buffs you have. Sure, your bad qualities are being leveled out because of your race abilities, but it I don't like the freedom because it really encourages the min-maxing. And I know a lot of people be like, oh, I'm not a min-maxer, I'm not a min-maxer. We all are min-maxers to
Everybody's
some
min-maxed
extent.
at heart.
You get the choice to pick the optimal choice. Why wouldn't you pick the optimal choice?
I do see
I'm not
that.
gonna pick the optimal choice. I'm gonna be a warlock cultist because I only get +1 in charisma.
I do get that completely. I guess some of my views are quite skewed. Obviously, you guys have had much bigger parameters of like a player base, but I have within the group that I play with, my players actually do that. They willingly choose the less optimal option just because it actually provides a better flavor. So I suppose some of my views are skewed simply because I do come from a player table where players will willingly accept a negative to what is going to like be, oh well, my DC for this is going to be less, or my spell save DC is going to be shit in comparison to what it normally could be, because I didn't choose this, and they willingly accept that just because it would be really cool to do the opposite.
Yeah, and I come from an era from 3.5 where min-maxing was the must almost to almost survive. So you had to min-max. Because if you didn't
die.
Yeah, it was literally because if skill points were way different, like you had a rogue with like 18 intelligence, so he has all the skills that he can need. So that's a way different kind of playstyle.
I think I also I trust my players to the extent that they won't min max. I mean, I know, for example, Tony, you would like to optimize to some extent as well. I mean, at least in terms of making a character. I know you don't like having a negative in a stat. It's just, but
I don't care about having a negative in a stat.
I trust my players as well in that aspect, but I'm also looking at this from a D&D as a whole because, like you said, because of the West Marches, I've had hundreds of players, and all of them, I wouldn't call any of them similar. All of them were unique, but a lot of them were. You laugh. All of them were unique. I'm not saying per se in a good way, but they were all unique.
We had people who purposely took shitty stats. We had people who were only trying to optimize. We had people. The 8-con illusion wizard. Been 4 years. Never forgot him.
Never forgot him. He got headbutted in a trail cell.
I think you're gonna get, at the end of the day, you're going to need to get people from all avenues. Don't get me wrong. I did say what I said about my players, but I do have a specific player that knows literally the rules in and out of the book and will min-max to as if this is like playing Divinity on the hardest difficulty and he has to save, you do see both sides. So I don't know. What I guess there's something that I'm trying to think of as well whilst I'm looking at this is how someone going into the game, especially because of the audiences that we are, well, I guess not us specifically, but that D&D is acquiring through why can I not think of the series? Hello, Stranger Things, and obviously Critical Role is also bringing in a huge audience as well. But you have kind of two sides of it, right? So you'll have people that are a bit more, and I'm not sure if you'll agree with me on this point, but I think us who have either already played D&D, like Tony was talking about earlier, or just naturally play video games, we are naturally more inclined to pick the most optimal thing because that has been ingrained into us, right? But people who maybe are from a path of life that they don't really play video games, or the extent of a video game to them is like FIFA or like Call of Duty, do you know what I mean? They might actually...
those games?
They might come into the scene of D&D with a completely different perspective. Yeah, you imagine you give them all the tools to min-max, but they won't really know how to, so instead they might just go for something that's more accommodating to what they feel like, right? So I'm trying to see this as a viewpoint where I'm where I'm also thinking of people coming into this who have never touched this game before.
I agree with you, but then again, I will always bring it back up. Then the people that don't min-max don't need that freedom because they'll pick it anyway. You know, they'll pick the +2 in charisma because that's the background they like. You know, they wouldn't need to be free because they wouldn't care about it being optimal. And I'm a filthy min-maxer at some point. I will say, I will say this. The campaign Amber hosts Etharis is one of the first campaigns I am actively, literally shooting myself in the foot because it makes sense in a roleplay perspective.
Like a lot of work. It took a lot of work on my end. Every time slowing Mark down, like
We got there though.
It's the truth. I like optimizing. I don't like being penalized for no reason. But you know, in Amber's campaign, it's the super good story reason. Yeah. I have been playing as a level 2 druid for like half a year now in a party of level 5s.
I think what you said, Brandon, it's like, I would almost call it like a bell curve. You have the people who just started D&D. They don't really know what they're doing. They're just going along with the flow. Their first characters are shit. Everyone's first character is fucking garbage unless they read the rules. And let's be honest, I've been playing for like 5 years. I never read the PHB or the DMG properly.
How dare you?
I've been talking about my first character.
I got them all on the shelf though, so that's like counts for something.
About my first character, he was perfect in every way because he was actually quite good. But it's only 17 years ago.
Large min-max grappler.
Exactly. So then you get the players who are like, they've been playing for a while, they know what they want to live the power fantasy, they know how to make a hard, you know, good, powerful character, and they will. And then you have the people who've been playing for longer than that, and who've also been on the other side of the coin, I feel. And then you get the people who are like, me and White in a one-shot for Gabe, who's sitting here with us just last week, rolling for stats, and then we see what stats we have, and we say we re-roll one of our higher stats because, you know, give me a shitty stat and put it in charisma because we're antisocial. Like, we don't need to have high stats across the board because it's funny if I have bad stats and I'm bad at communicating with people.
Unless you put it in strength, you're not unique. Dumping your strength, everyone.
No, it's the truth.
Depends at the extent you go, you know. I mean, I'm playing a 7 strength gnome and I can barely carry my own bones, which at this point I am desperate, but it's also fun.
It's encumbrance, people. It really gets your players thinking about dumping strength.
Slots were even worse.
I'm gonna quickly round back because, you know, there's a lot of topics to discuss. Like, quite a bit of changes were in this document. Feats. Feats have been changed quite drastically. I hope in the way that I hope it is. That sounds weird, but I hope that D&D is going to go sort of back to the 3.5 feat system, because I really like the skills that build into sort of a skill tree. You know, I grab the polearm feat that allows me to, you know, reach further with my polearm, and that builds into different feats. That's what I'm hoping it's going to be.
But it definitely doesn't build into Sentinel, right, Mark?
I have never played a Sentinel character, actually. I think Sentinel's ridiculous.
I have played a Sentinel character once, but not with Polar Master. You use
Harass.
Yeah, that part is just fucking stupid.
We didn't have one in the West Marches, though. We didn't have one guy like that.
Yeah, but I like the idea of feats building into, because then you can sort of have a multi-class without players having to multi-class.
I hope it's as you say, but I never played 3.5, so I can't really tell how feats were there back then. What I like of feats as they are now is the freedom that they give you in kind of adding them together. I can get Polyam Master, and the next level I can get Magic Initiate. What I fear and what I don't want them to do is block feats from being taken because they're higher up in this supposed skill tree. For example, if I want to get Sentinel, maybe, and it's further up in the Polyam Master tree, maybe I don't want Polyam Master, maybe I just want the Sentinel feat. And
that's something I do.
Yeah, I don't want this whole thing to happen.
I agree with that, but I do feel like that is going to happen. Go on, Amber.
Yeah, I think the point of that these things are up higher in a tree is that you want them because they are going to be more powerful than other feats that you could get at like the base level. Because the point is that you build into this tree and you invest all of these ASIs into them rather than getting more, higher stats. You're getting these feats to get these extra points, and now you've got this powerful feat at the end of it, and that's the
Yeah.
point. Yeah, you get a
I
reward that you get this powerful thing
Yeah, I
for your
love the
investment.
idea of building a skill tree. Like, maybe that's just the MMO fiend inside of me, to be
Mhm,
honest. But
mhm.
I love the idea of like progressing through a skill tree because I think that's just really cool. And like, I've got this maybe not so useful feat at level 1, but I know that that's going to eventually build into this kind of really good feat eventually. Like if we keep using this polearm example, yeah, I might get polearm mastery now, which maybe at level 1 it might just allow me to do a bonus action with the hilt of my halberd or whatever else, right? And then eventually that is going to flow into Sentinel, which is like this really powerful skill that allows me to really masterfully use my polearm. So I do love that idea, but I also, now that Gabe brought it up, it does make me kind of worry of the idea of people not being able to cross feats like that, like never having the opportunity
Yeah,
to
exactly.
cross really interesting feat dimensions.
I think to prevent that, they might be able to, like, here you have top feet, but you have 2 feed lines that might build into
Yeah.
that top feet. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Skill
it
tree
also,
moment.
it also depends what the quote unquote top feat is gonna be. Like,
Yeah.
because yes, some feats, sure, they kind of belong up there, but then others, they should really be, well, as they've done now, they're like level 1 feats or tier 1 feats, as they're calling them.
Hmm.
And
Mhm.
yeah, you should just be able to take them without having to rely on any prerequisites, really.
Yeah, I mean, they've made feats a lot less powerful, in my opinion. At least some of them, not all of them. I think some of them are a lot less powerful. Some of them are way too powerful.
So,
But I'm not really gonna look at the level of power yet. It is UA,
mhm.
it's up for change.
Can I at least make
Yeah.
a single
Sorry.
mention?
Sorry,
'Cause-
sorry.
Oh no! It's just about a specific feat without
Oh
going
yeah, go
into
ahead.
too much. Because as Tony said when we were discussing backgrounds, it's like, hey, if you're a monk, yeah, okay, you're gonna go for a sailor background because first of all, you get the good ASIs with that for a monk. Also, you get the tavern brawler feat, which now. The enhanced unarmed strike doesn't really matter. You're a monk, it's fine. You're already punching harder and better. But however, now with Tavern Brawler, you can re-roll your unarmed strike die if you roll a 1, and then you use the new roll.
It's great weapon fighting inbuilt into a feat that gives you
Yep.
other stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then it's like, yeah, that's kind of a.
For your hands.
It's just
You know.
it's a
Your
must
hands
for a
or a
monk,
chair.
technically
Yeah.
speaking.
I mean, yeah, I know. I mean, you could do the same thing if you were a halfling. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's yeah, I agree. I think they need to be careful with assigning feats to
Yeah.
backgrounds, which they do. I think it should be a lot more free, like free pick of a feat. I don't think they should again shove a background into a corner. Like a background can have 2 entirely separate
Mhm.
stories that have very little to do with each other. So I
these are just
do
the sample backgrounds, though. Like, the
Yeah,
their
of
intent is that you just build your entire background up from the ground, which is a lot of work.
yeah.
But,
That is something I definitely forgot to mention in backgrounds. I will say it now. One thing I really miss is features. I know they weren't very widely used, but I
No, I
really like
understand
the
you.
background feature. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
being a
So-
commoner and staying with random people in their house because you are a commoner too, and I share a
Yeah.
lifestyle. So
I mean, they do give
can I
that
stay with you?
spice, being a hunted
Yeah.
one, and people look at you in the eyes and they just welcome you because you know that you've gone through the most horrible stuff.
Yeah.
It's
I
great.
think, I think there's some cool features to it, but I don't know if I will really miss it, and I don't think many players will actually notice it either.
No,
I don't know.
I agree. It's just a personal thing that I'll really miss.
It's
Mm.
like ribbon. It's like ribbon abilities. It's like you see them in the moments that players are truly driven to, like, you know, their extreme, where they're truly driven into a corner, and you give them 2 sticks and a stone, and then suddenly they manage to figure something out with these like small tools. And they will do the same thing with these shitty ribbon abilities that they get from races or backgrounds.
There's always one that really wants to show it off. You know, it's like, oh, is the architecture of this building perhaps related to my background?
Do I share a background lifestyle with him?
Because then I get a plus 1d4 in my insight checks against them. And I'm like, no.
Yes, White, we're
But they are
calling you out.
imprisoned.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'll really miss them. To be fair,
I think it's valid. I don't think I care too much. I just find it a little bit.
Yeah, well, I personally won't care because I don't ever get to be a player anyway, so it won't make a difference. Let's go. Anyway, carry on. Next step.
I literally invited you at my table and you said you didn't want to. I don't know what you mean.
I am literally a player at your table right now. What do you mean?
Why are you saying that you're not a player then?
No, I am saying, you know what? It's fine. It's fine.
I had something to say about background, or feet, but like...
Yeah, we're still on it.
I don't remember what I was gonna say. It was very important.
Was it about feet or was it about backgrounds? Was it to do with humanoids having too many feet?
What was it about?
No, it was not that point yet. It was something about feats as a whole.
A specific feat or as a whole?
No.
Leveling feats.
That is.
Give me a moment.
I do like the idea of a feat you can grab like twice and have.
Yeah.
I remember it. I want, because they want to do this whole system, right? But for them to be able to implement this leveling feat background system, they need to make D&D an actual playable game beyond a certain level. Because otherwise, nobody is going to get to these fucking background feats. Nobody's going to level their background feat to the highest level, because D&D just falls apart after like level 10, and nobody wants to host it and host it anymore. And everybody wants to play it because everybody wants to be powerful, but all the DMs are like, well, hands off, because this is all getting a little bit too much for me, and I'm just like, let's start a new campaign where you guys are noobs again and I can just curb stomp you with some goblins.
I have to put my hands up here and say I adore playing above level 10. I can't lie. Maybe I'm just a maniac, but I love the idea I love the idea of being able to just have these fights that are so beyond ridiculous. Like, I had, when my players reached level, I think it was like level 11 in the last campaign that I played, we literally had this entire session dedicated to a war, where it was like thousands and thousands of like swarms of enemies against them, and it was just like them being able to just literally fully unload their arsenal and just feel like these giga heroes. And I think there is a win to that, but I do also agree that balancing is an issue. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that there's not an issue. Do not get me wrong. I think there is a big issue with balancing and just, you know, players absolutely ruffle stomping everything in their path past a certain point.
Yes.
But, you know, sometimes as a DM, you just have to kick it up a notch, you know?
I mean, the big crazy combats and like world-ending, you know, disasters and shit, really cool. But as I said, like, longevity becomes just difficult, you know. They just circumvent all the exploration, they ignore all the social encounters, stop it with their well, I have expertise and a plus 15 to persuasion, and also I am so rich I could just buy your entire town. Suck on that barony.
Or just illusion wizards be like, you have 10 minutes? You have 10 minutes. I have a level 7 spell that can literally wipe out any army in a single cast. Stupid spell.
Yeah.
Fucking
Like,
hate Mirage Arcane.
there's
Burn that
like
spell
a
in the
lot
ground.
of...
Don't call it back.
There are spells that shouldn't exist, but that's a whole other...
Very true. We can talk about spells a different day. Jesus.
It's plant growth. Plant growth shouldn't exist. I'm literally gonna ban it from my game.
Let's go.
Anyway. The longevity of D&D it's just difficult, you know, like at some point session, campaigns get to such a point that DMs are like, you level up every session just so we can get to the end of this, you know, like...
I mean...
And then it just becomes hard to let players, like, reach that enjoyment of getting to level out the entire feat tree.
Yeah.
Because, you know,
And to bring, I agree with Amber that it definitely needs to be found, because the example that you brought, like, oh, they're fighting armies and things like that, the first thing that came into my mind was like, wow, that's a cool level 8 encounter. I'm like, because that's the end game in my head. Like if I do it above it, it's like that's not an encounter. That's a curve stomp.
Yeah.
I wouldn't play that out. I would describe it to them, but I wouldn't,
I suppose I think it does
it.
truly just depend how you throw things at them, and I love making my own creatures. That is one of the things I love the most about being a DM, and doing that, I can just create these absolutely absurd things that equally match their power. It's like, here's my new breath attack that is just going to directly annihilate your existence, bitch. How about that? Like, I don't know. There's this power rivalry, but I do agree. No, there is an absolute huge disarray of. I think level 10 is the sweet spot. Like beyond that point, it is just almost. Every encounter is either going to be you annihilate your players or the players annihilate your encounter, and there's no in between of this struggle.
Yeah, that's and of course, making your own creatures. I think you should all do it. I mean, I'm kind of sad because I forgot to keep doing it. But for example, for Amber's World, I am still really into it, and I just make creatures that can live in there and be there because I like making them. But like Amber said, I think if they do this right, if they lower class power, which I know is going to suck for a lot of players to hear it, but I just think that's one of the few solutions to lower progression, or at least progression speed. If they nail it, I think this edition could be the best and only one D&D you need. I think if they implement these changes, they have something amazing.
For me, I don't even know where I'd start. That's my issue. I don't even know where I'd start with trying to make like power changes. Like I've got to own up. I don't know what I would do. Like if I'm honest.
Problem they've just spent the past. When did Tasha's come out? Almost 1 year ago, 2 years ago. Cauldron, yeah.
A year ago, I think. A year ago.
A year ago.
At most a year.
I was about to me pulling up my book.
It came out in 2020, November.
Yep.
Jesus.
Guys, so what did I say? Almost 2 So almost 2 years ago, it came out, and they just went and shifted the entirety of like classes because they were like, well, nobody wants to get to higher levels, but players want to be powerful, so they shifted all of the power of classes to the front and front loaded them, and so everybody's really powerful now at a low level. So then, how are they going to stretch it out into the high level and still make it something that can be
now
enjoyed?
we're making it harder to play at early levels, not late ones.
I guess, technically speaking, since now that we talked about it, it makes sense then that they're like, okay, you do get a feat from the background. Because otherwise, if you didn't, you would have to wait till level 4. And if you're going to progress that feat, it's like, okay, that's kind of weird. Then you get to level 8, and well, certain classes 6. And you would definitely not be able to progress.
That's such a good point, actually. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I didn't think of that.
Personally, I do like feats from the background, but they have to be as they did. Things like resilient, skilled, things that aren't too impactful, but they can still.
No, that's a very good point. I didn't think of that. Of course, if we're talking about progression, there is going to have to be that initial baseline.
I would like it to be like limited thing. I don't want you to come in with your level 1 and be like, yeah, from my background, I know I was a peasant before, but sharpshooter, great weapon master.
Oh yeah, Jesus. Yeah.
Always human variants who come in with those fucking.
I'm a human variant with both of them.
Yeah, I think that's why there's a level prerequisite. I really hope there's also going to be feat prerequisites or class prerequisites.
I think it does say like prerequisites in general. You might just like. You must meet any prerequisites specified in the feat to take that feat. I think that isn't just going to be limited to level. I think if they've worded it like that, they do intend it to be you need X to have.
I hope so.
They brought out that other UA. It was the one that had the giant feats that were like leveling. They were like, you need to have this, and then you would also be at least this level, etc., etc.
That's true.
That was the
one. Oh, sorry, go ahead. I didn't hear you.
Like back in 3.5, it was even worse. Because yes, I'm going to go back to 3.5 a lot, because I still compare a lot back to 3.5, because like, hey, if you wanted to be an assassin, like back when multiclassing was also a bigger thing than now, and it was more expert class. If you want to be assassin, you had to be chaotic evil, and you had to have this feat and this feat and this feat before you could become that. Like,
I will say I hate prestige classes, but I also really like prestige classes. Like the idea of being so specialized in the thing you do that you get like a power boost from it, like you get like a very unique thing that no one else can get. I like the idea, but then
just stay in the corner for 4 rounds and they just do 50 d8 of damage.
Yeah. But it's gonna be hard to
power
balance.
creep. Like it's power creep. But I do agree, the fantasy of it is really cool. Do we want to? Do we want to tackle the human feat thing very quickly?
I mean, the human okay. I will say, I get why they did it. Like, because if I'm going to come to you and ask you, like, literally the only thing. Are you talking about the feet? Because that's not even the thing I hate most. There's something else about humans that is way worse.
For me, it's these. Well, yeah, we'll get onto that later.
Yeah, it's for everyone. It's for everyone. The inspiration.
Everyone
me,
piping up like, ooh.
Yeah, for me, the idea of you can start off as a human and already have 2 feats. I mean, we don't know how feats are going to develop at the moment, but as of it stands right now, that is not running at my table. I'm
going to defend it. I'm going to defend this design decision. If I look at what they're trying now, right, making the level 1 feats way less powerful, the only feat you can get, only level 1s, then you're effectively getting a more customized racial ability. Like, yeah, you might not be like, yeah, let's say you pick because you find it interesting. Let's say you pick the alert feat, right? Proficiency on initiative. And a swap. I really like how they changed alert, by the way.
I love how they changed
alert.
Yes.
It's 100%. My favorite. But that's the feat you get. And you get that while, let's say, your tiefling buddy gets dark vision. They get every long rest. They can get 2 very powerful spells. They get a cantrip for free. Like, whatever you're getting, it's not comparing. Like, if they are, from what the feats I've seen, most of them won't compare to a racial feature, which I find very sad. Wizards of the Coast have mostly just done, you get spell racial feature. But
I don't know.
I don't think it compares.
Yeah, yes and no. I don't know. I feel like there's like we discussed Tavern Brawler earlier, just being able to have that for free and then also go down the path of something else. You're not wasting, because like if we're talking about the importance of a feat now, if this is going to be this skill tree thing, feats, like your feat choice on choosing something is going to be a huge choice now, because that dedicates whether you get to go down this skill tree or are you going to start building towards this other skill tree.
Yeah, that's true. You have twice the choice, basically.
Yeah, having starting off with 2 negates a level 4 technically. You already have a level 4.
I mean, we don't know how they do feats yet.
Because I pulled up the giant UA, and in the giant UA, there's definitely the distinction. This is now a level 4 feat. Like, they just say, this is a level 4 feat, this is a level 8 feat, this is a level this feat. You have to either be level 4, or you need to have this other feat, or you need to have both. So I don't think they will allow you to just say, I'm going to just level straight up into the same tree by going human variant, which then makes me go, why are you going like 2 skill? Like, then you're just getting 2 separate trees, and then you have to choose between the 2, and it's like...
That's what I think human variant does. It doesn't allow you to go faster up 1 tree. It just allows you access to 2. And other races would be able to do that as well, I assume, by just taking an extra feat in a different tree later. But humans, that's the
only point. Never be the same.
So that's my point. You're wasting something later, you know.
Yeah.
So it's not quite the same. Like human, I'm going to start off on polearm tree, and I'm going to start off on tavern brawler. Like obviously these don't make sense. I'm just putting in an example, and I'm going to start off with these 2. That means I've already not had to waste a keystone level up on starting off my secondary tree because I've already got that prerequisite started.
Yeah.
And if we're going to talk about min maxes, that's huge. Obviously, don't get me wrong. There might be people that will do it for like, you know, maybe choose specific feats like musician and like alert, or you know, something a bit more flavorful. But like we've been discussing quite often, we need to think of the people that are doing it purely for the sense of becoming like as powerful as possible as soon as possible.
I want to say I agree to a certain point. I don't think that first level feat compares at all. If you've read any of the other races' abilities, I don't think it compares at all to the racial abilities they get. Which is humans only get they get proficiency in one skill, their stupid ass feat or stupid ability that should be removed out of the game, and a feat. I don't think it compares. I think personally, I think it's fine.
Even having the inspiration thing, you don't think it compares?
I mean, like,
stop.
No, the inspiration should be just
we're
removed
gonna come to that. I think it all of those mechanics that they're trying to just need to be removed. But we're gonna talk about that in inspiration.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Like I said, this is all very early, isn't it? You know, we don't know how feats are going to develop. It's very early to see if whether it's too early to say whether this 2-feat human thing is going to be incredibly strong or not, because we don't know how feats are going to develop.
Yeah.
So maybe a conversation for another day.
Yeah. The next thing that is on my tongue, I'm going to move away from feats. I think we've discussed them quite a bit. I'm very interested. I'm very hyped. I'm very curious where it's going. But the next thing I am excited for. Or curious about, and this is mostly in relation to classes, because we don't know how they're going to change classes. I hope they're going to change it a lot. But is them dividing the spells in magic types, not class spell lists, but magic types.
To the olden days.
Back to birthdays.
Divine, arcane,
and primal. Primal is now also
primal. Yeah.
Yes, but I just hope that it means that my old class spells is gonna come back called necromancy, because that was a domain back in the day.
I am not going to talk about. They are separated for the feats, like your magic initiate and all those things. They are separated for the feats.
Yep.
The question here that I'd like to ask is: do you think they're going to go so far as to do it for classes?
Probably.
And what would your opinion be?
They have 3 big spell lists for all classes.
Yeah, no, basically, like there's so to give you some perspective, Divine is for clerics and paladins.
And paladins.
Primal is for druids and rangers. And Arcane is for wizards, sorcerers, and bards, and warlocks. I'm not sure. I know warlocks has Divine. I think.
I mean, I think that's what they're going to do now.
It could also be like abyssal domain could be coming. This could be. There could be more domains coming.
Oh no, warlocks do also have arcane. No, warlocks. It's arcane. It's bard, sorcerer, warlocks, wizards for arcane. It's clerics, paladins for divine, and druid and ranger for. Do you think they're gonna apply that to classes as well, like that separation of spells, or do you think they're gonna stick with class spell lists?
I think it depends on what direction they're trying to follow. If they still want to go with the player-friendly choice, with the I want to make it easier for newbies to play the game, grouping them up in 3 big families would help. A lot of people that don't know how spellcasting works, how each class has neatly picked spells in their spell list. If they make it 3 big spells that shade on different classes, it's a lot easier to remember that, these 4 classes pick from that, this 2 pick from that one, etc., etc. It causes the problem, though, that I don't think it's actually a problem. I feel like it's just a disparity that annoys my symmetrical brain, that you have 2 classes for Divine, 2 classes for Primal, and double that amount for Arcane. So that, as you said, you have Warlock, Wizard, Sorcerers, and possibly Bards. All of those 4 classes pick from Arcane. While the other 2 spell lists are much more restricted to 2 classes each.
And only 1 actual caster.
It's really difficult as well, because that provides obviously this is not our problem, so thank God for that. But for the people that are making it, right now a bard can cast Healing Word, and it makes sense, right? Is Healing Word a divine spell? Because if it is, then that means that bards no longer have access to it.
Yeah.
It is. They have at the end of the UA, there's a section that says these are just the 3 things that you have now, the 3 types, and they give a spell list for all the first level spells. They don't get Healing Word anymore.
Well, there you go then. So now all of a sudden a bard, which in my opinion, Healing Word makes sense. Healing Word makes sense in a bard's toolkit.
Absolutely.
All of a sudden now can't be used because they're not divine. So I don't know. That means that now instead of solidifying a spell through who can use it by, I guess, I don't know, by just what makes sense.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh man, it would be really cool if bards could have that, but unlucky, then you're not divine.
Yeah.
What
I
I
mean,
think.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I mean, I guess they might also do something, which is like, okay, they do similar stuff with domain spells and stuff like that, and they'll change some shit around with some of the classes and be like, okay, a bard can have healing word and something else maybe from the divine list as an example.
I feel like they might go in the direction of like Divine Soul Sorcerer, you know, that they're like, well, this subclass can pick not only from the Arcane list, but also from the Divine list, or also from the Prime list. Suddenly, you're no longer limited to like, I think, so many, there's classes that have like almost no spells at all, and now it's like, well, have access to like 600 of the 900 available spells, you know, like...
Yeah, I think... they're almost attempting to simplify it, and then instantly their only solution to it is by making it complicated again. So
I think personally, I hate and like the idea. For example, for what you said, Brandon, it makes classes lose their identity. I feel like, I mean, right now there's already so little difference between a wizard and a sorcerer, right? There's already so little difference.
Yeah.
And now they remove even more of that separation.
Yeah.
We don't even know if there's going to be wizards, sorcerers. By the way, this is all speculation. But
I mean,
supposed to be backwards compatible with 5e, so...
I mean, I hope they're not going to be like, okay, hey, you have... Here are your classes. Marshal.
Yeah.
Spellcaster.
I saw people talking about that on Twitter as a thread, and I was losing my mind because I didn't think about it until they talked about it. They were like, well, you know, realistically, you could just simplify and just, you know, sorcerer could just be a subclass of wizard. And I was like, no.
I will argue they could if they do it right. If they do that right, that would work fantastically. Like, let's say... I know, but like, okay, try to put yourselves in this new fantasy world and try to separate your classes. Instead of getting to level 2 and picking your subclass out of wizard, you pick wizard and then a subclass ability of that wizard. But when you reach level 6, you could pick a sorcerer ability. So I think if they do it right, it would work fantastically. But
it's too complicated?
I don't have the trust in Wizards of the Coast that they would do that right.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I don't know. That sounds, something that you could admire to do, but it also sounds quite complicated when you can just keep it as it is. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they shouldn't, because right now
difficult edition, simple edition.
Yeah. I mean, like, for example, I think Bard might say, oh, you can use Arcana, like Amber said, you can use Arcana or Divine. You know, you can both spell lists. But I think it's also kind of sucky now that Bard's is like, I can be a DPS caster with all the fucking magic power spells and have no repercussion for it, despite me being clearly a support class.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're going to do then, because they've already clearly stated that they are splitting it into Arcane, Divine, and Primal. So, for a class, what would be the ideal thing that you guys would want to see then, moving forward from here? Like, what would you want to see?
Personally, I'd say, like, they can't move away from the classes they have.
I want a different Warlock.
Warlock? Yeah, I mean, sort of same. I want Warlocks not to be focused around Eldritch Blast, which they right now have to be.
Yep.
There is a I use a lot of like changes by Giphy Glyph because I really liked their Darker Dungeons thing, but they also have a lot of they also basically took all the classes and reworked classes from the ground up to level 10. They don't go higher than level 10 in their game because, you know, as we said before, nobody really realistically gets higher. So they capstone out at 10. But they take Warlocks and they take the pacts and make the pacts actually have impact beyond, you know, you are a Pact of the Blade and you use Charisma, or you can use this and you can summon a weapon, or you're a Pact of the Tome and you gain like 3 spells. These pacts mean something, and on top of the fact that they obviously have, you know, the pact with their patron, which is another separate thing, their subclass, the pact they choose at 3rd level also keeps leveling with them up until 10th level, and they get like new features surrounding that, and I really
That's
like
cool.
that.
It's
really
one of the things I hated is for those of you that were into the UA back then, the Hexblade UA, one was mega busted, but that's not what I'm talking about. Did something that I loved. They made Pact of the Blade, for example, and they said, "Here's a cool weapon you summon if you have Pact of the Blade and are a Great Old One Warlock." And I am so sad they didn't go with that, because it's just like, that's what I love, Yeah, there's two weird prerequisites, but that creates something so unique, no one else has it.
There's still a couple of like UA things out there for like, if you are a warlock of this, of the Archfey, then you can take this invocation, which will give you this other thing as well. And it's like, But yeah, currently packs are kind of shit. I'm sorry, people who Pact of the Chain cute, but in reality, Pact of the Chain kind of sucks ass. Like you're gonna take an imp probably because the imp is like one of the familiars that doesn't suck asshole.
No, I will fight you, Amber. Pact of the Blade sucks ass or is way too overpowered. There's no difference in between.
Yes.
And the reason I say that is the same reason why I think Echo Knight is way too overpowered. Is you can scout dungeons, entire dungeons, never set foot in them. Why would anyone attack the stupid spider crawling on the wall? No one would. It's a spider.
I think pacts suck because they could be much more. I don't think they suck because of what they are. Well, I mean, some of them really do, but I think they truly suck. But I think in reality, like an umbrella term is the fact that they suck because they could be just so much more, just like Amber said earlier.
It's
now I'm gonna segue into why Warlock should be intelligence, but
no.
We will sit here until tomorrow.
I was about to say, I will fight you on that every step of the way.
I will fight you on that also.
But
any day. I've never had a problem with my intelligence warlocks.
But I'm to quickly get back on it. I really like the way they're gonna have to find a good way. I mean, right now, I really think they could have better. I know this fits the lore of D&D. Like, I know this fits lore-wise. D&D fits it really well. I think they could way better could have gone. This is the support class spell. This is the offensive spell class, offensive class list, because that would work way better.
I gotta put my hands up there. I just like it as it is. Class spell list just makes sense to me. I don't know.
No, that is my favorite too, but I don't think that's not what they went with.
No, they haven't gone with that. That's kind of. Are we thinking that is eliminated? That's not going to exist now. Do we agree?
Yeah. What did you say? What?
That class spell lists are no longer.
I think they're not going to be a thing.
Yeah.
Which I'm very sad about. They gave classes so much identity.
Yeah, like they. Technically, I guess it's still too early to tell, but looking at the UA and some, the recent design choices in other UAs and the recent books, then they might just as well just remove class spell lists as a whole and be like, here's something else. That's just here's these 3 spell lists that you can just use.
I've got to say that's probably, arguably, maybe. I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe the inspiration thing, but I think this might be the first or the second most annoying change for me, like the thing that I dislike the most.
Okay, in reality, I agree with you, but fundamentally, I would call this my third, and the next topic is what I am passionate about disliking, but I don't think matters too much. No, it's not inspiration. No, it's not inspiration.
Wow, that's my number 1.
No, that's my number 1 too. That's not even an argument. No, the next thing we're discussing is nat 20s, nat 1s, and critical hits.
Oh, fuck off.
And I'm going to
tie into the inspiration mark, which
is the topic after this one. And I'm not even going to touch the fact that you get roll nat 20 and gain inspiration, because that's even more stupid. I'm not even going to touch that. For those of you that have been on TikTok, there's a lot of our discussion about natural 20s and natural 1s specifically, where it's like, ew, if someone couldn't have succeeded with a natural 20, don't make them roll. And I don't like that argument for the fact of if you allow one person to roll, most often you should allow everyone to roll. And for one person that might be beatable, but for the other, it's impossible. Nat 20
100%.
shouldn't change that. But now, if you allow them to roll, they succeed. No argument in this Nat 20 way. Don't like that. I think it's stupid. I don't think there's no point in specifying that in writing. It just makes it worse.
Agreed. If there's no counter arguments, I say we move on because agreed 100%.
Yeah.
Let's just not run into my table.
I am going for the next one because I do think this is something you need to talk about. Critical hits. As surprisingly, you might not. I might not be too against this, honestly. What crits now do is that weapons and unarmed strikes. If you roll a crit, basically, if you roll natural 20. You roll the damage of your weapon a second time. That's it. And I think it's a bit, it's disappointing for rogues and paladins. I am neither of those mains.
Technically.
Good. No, good.
You might be touching on this right now. So.
No, I don't think I was going to.
I was just going to say, obviously based on the wording here, it's specifically, weapons and unarmed strikes. You're not gonna be able to crit on spells anymore.
Yeah, no, that is something. No, one thing I was debating is a sneak attack. I know paladin smites are definitely not, but is a sneak attack part of the weapon damage?
Yes.
I'm not sure.
If
it is, then that would crit.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think sneak attack, I understand why it would be part of the weapon damage, but I think it classifies as a completely different...
I think that is also the case, personally, but...
I think that wouldn't get the additional dice rolls.
No, yeah, I agree.
Under this new system.
Under this mechanic, I don't think it would.
Because it says very specifically, at least, and to me, this is how I read it, and we all know how Wizards of the Coast typing is, but under how I read it is, it's weapon die damage, which is literally just the weapon die, so longsword, whatever it is, dagger, whatever it is, and nothing else, or your unarmed strikes.
Yeah, I think that is as well.
That does not include sneak attack. That does not include smite.
But as mechanics work, they are part of the weapon attack. So
but they're not the weapon damage, are they?
But they are part of the weapon attack.
Yeah,
so
but it's just the weapon
damage.
Well, let's not argue semantics. I don't think that's very valuable. The biggest thing we do and need to argue about is this is just mostly a direct nerf to casters, and you're gonna be surprised by which class I think is nerfed the most by this. You can all guess. Just take a guess which class I think is nerfed the most by this.
It could be. I was about to say it could be any other casters. I don't know.
It is a caster, but you know that.
Warlocks.
Could it be a cleric?
Clerics. I think clerics are the ones.
Divine Strike.
Because they have not just Divine Strike, they have Guiding Bolt and Inflict Wounds as their two main damage spells.
Yeah, that is
true. No longer crit.
I've never known the strongest caster, so
So I agree. I think it's a good change. I don't think spells should crit. I know that's.
I think they should.
I also think they should.
It's for me. It's hard. I think for balance reasons they should.
And this is like something that I've been thinking about for a couple of weeks, right? Spells can critically hit, but do you do extra damage if a creature critically fails their saving throw against your spell? We also don't do that.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that is kind of the point.
So what is the general consensus then? In your opinion, should spells crit or not?
I think spells shouldn't crit. Casters are already way more powerful than melee characters, or than martial characters in most circumstances. I'm saying in most circumstances because a min-max martial character will outclass a caster until they get the high-level power spells. But I think that's a good change, purely because it brings back some of the power to characters.
Yeah, go ahead, Tony.
I think spells should crit because martial characters, even though I'm a martial main myself, they can go on the entire time. And spellcasters, they have the slots always. They will have the slots. So like they have bursts of damage that they can do, and then they're done for the day. And if there's another combat going out, what will they do? And you see slamming somebody with a quarterstaff, and you see the martial character still going on and on and on.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, spells should crit.
Yeah, I agree. I think a spell should be able to crit like it's been for God knows how long. I think that's fine, honestly.
Well, I cringe internally as a DM when a player crits my boss to death. I think that having critical hits is like such a part of the game. You know, it's the ultimate gambling part of rolling the dice, I guess.
I share the same sentiment.
You don't get inspiration though.
I share the same sentiment. As much as I would like them to not be a thing, I think they should be.
I'm happy they don't take the rule back for confirming a crit.
Yeah,
you rolled the first time 20, now try to confirm it again.
Well, I mean, confirming crits is so that crit fissures are a thing.
So, speaking of, players being able to crit and whatnot, there's also a very specific word. Yeah, okay, you were getting to that as well.
Critting.
Yeah, there's a very specific wording in this where it says that that the critical hits is, it's a feature for player characters.
Yep.
Specifically.
Monsters can no longer crit.
Because we have to baby our players and we can't crit them.
Fuck them.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's not running on my table.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
I can only crit my players. That's the only thing I do.
Oh yeah.
At least
it's also an implication of death saves.
I know that you spent 42 hours working on this character, Timothy, but that goblin crits you, so you're fucking dead.
I mean, like, I get the perspective.
But it's a player character feature.
I mean, I get the perspective, but it's indeed like, you're already taking away the spell crits. I guess I get why, because again, monsters' natural weapons and melee attacks are that much more massive than a player's normal attack.
True. A purple worm critting you is not a good thing.
No, but like,
Thank you, I
so
know.
I get what you. I get why they do it, but it's like, don't make it a player thing. It's monsters.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, maybe it's not everyone, because some people just maybe don't have the metal for it. But like Ryan said in the chat, all my players, as stupid as it sounds, love being critically hit, because it's a moment of oh shit. It's a moment of oh shit. Pokemon, my screen's flashing red. Dun, what is going on?
Like,
100%. One thing I think they might, if it's a change, I think if they make it so that only like major monsters can crit you, like a DM basically puts a tag on it says major, like let's say
that'd be controversial from what we just said. If only major monsters can crit you, that means that only the 60-10 boulder tossed from the storm giant can crit you, and not the goblin swarm that is going to attack you.
Yeah, but like that's why I think like that's why, like, if a boss monster does it, it's devastating. It's awesome. Like a boss monster critting you
kills you.
Yeah, no, but even if it insta kills you, that's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah, I think Mark actually makes a really good point. I think that's a really good safety feature, like a safety tool that DMs would have. That could be one of the things that they put into the manual as an optional thing for DMs if they wanted to.
So kind of like death save in a way, where only important monsters and NPCs get to roll death save. Well, most common monsters, they go to 0, they fucking croak. That's pretty much it.
I actually think that's a really cool idea. I'm not gonna lie, because if I'm starting my table off, and I'm gonna be real here, as much as I hate to admit it, if I start, not with my players because they have all played with me for ages, but if I started a table with brand new players and fucking Gobbo the Goblin decides to critically strike my wizard and they die, I'm gonna fudge that die and say, oh no, they rolled a 12 or whatever.
Exactly.
I'm not gonna kill off the first battle experience of my player that has just come into the game.
I mean, not just that, but the reason I suggested is, like, let's say you're like level 7, level 8, you're like really high up there, and you're fighting guy with great axe. two guys with great axe, and they're just kind of just guys with great axes. That's it. And somehow they both critically hit you and just fucking murder you on the spot.
Yeah.
No one's happy when that happens.
It's very specific thing you're pulling up there with great axes
Level 1
and
by
level
Mark
1.
with a great axe.
Yeah.
Or just fucking threw me with a great axe at level 1. I had more than 10 HP, really killed me instantly.
So,
Anyway.
I actually think Mark is making a really valid point. I like that feature, even if it's not an actual thing that we can talk about because they haven't put it in the game. I actually really think that's a cool feature that could be implemented. Because I mean, I wouldn't use it at my table with my current players because with them, they're veterans, and if I roll a critical hit with a goal, I'm just gonna laugh in their face and say, "Ha, get fucked." But like with
Yeah, fair enough.
But with if I was going to baby a table, then that is a neat safety tool. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Yeah.
I was literally about to say the same thing actually, Mark, before you said it, and I was actually gonna segue into the yes, they are gonna do like I was literally not gonna mention that. I was gonna mention they're gonna do the Dark Heresy thing or something, or like other systems that is like only elites can like what Jared
that's what I
only
was thinking about.
elites can fucking have negative wounds, and only elites give you a negative status condition when they crit you. Also, Gabe, everybody has death saves. The PHB or the DMG just says most DMs will just let creatures die when they hit 0 hit points.
I see.
But everybody
Okay,
technically
unspoken
has
rule.
death saves.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unspoken rule because, like, what the fuck is Gobo the Goblin gonna do when you fucking shank him?
Freaking
That 20 back to life.
20.
I don't have time because his fucking 6 cousins are still up and running.
It's fine. Go with the goblin. He nat 20s. He gains an inspiration, and he attacks you with advantage.
Oh my god! Right, I think it's time to talk about inspiration, guys.
I mean, I want to say yes, it's time to talk about it, but I don't think it's gonna be a very long discussion.
Inspiration? No.
But I think
I hate it.
I think for the people that don't know, we should at least outline it.
Yes.
Basically, what's happening
Wording
is
for inspiration?
what basically happening is, unlike what we are all suggesting, inspiration itself hasn't changed much at all. It's the same as how it is in normal D&D. You lose it at a long rest. You only can have one at a time. And you can use it to get yourself advantage on a roll before rolling. The only difference now is you get one for free if you roll nat 20. Stupid.
Yeah.
I think it also says after rolling in
Get it
this
on a long
UA.
rest.
What did you say?
I think in this UA it says even after rolling.
No. It still specifies before doing it. Before rolling.
Before.
I see. Okay.
But the thing that we are so complaining about is the entire UA is trying to make it a basic resource, and I don't think it should ever be a basic resource.
They are heavily pushing it into the game as something that they want it to be used every session, non-stop. Everyone gets it all the time.
Yeah, you have, for example, what people have been saying, the human, which literally just gets one per long rest.
Yep.
I actually don't think that's too bad. Playing an Amber's game where you have a standard human which gets human determination once per short or long rest, I'm not sure which one of them.
Yeah.
It's technically the same thing, where you have one advantage on one check every long rest, pretty much.
Yeah, but there's also...
It's an inspiration is just cringe. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's cringe.
I don't want to use the word
But for
cringe
example-
because I find like a Gen Z, but like, it's just cringe to me.
But for example, they make it easier through literally having a feat that gives you for free.
That I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Yeah.
I did, and it's that's what we just don't like. It should be a special resource.
Yeah,
Yes,
inspiration should be a special resource. It should be handed out by the DM when they're like, okay, you did something cool. I like this. Or, in the case of other players going, wow, I think that this player did something really cool. Be that, cool RP, or they had like a really good moment that session. And they're like, Mr. DM,
Tony can't hear me. Yeah, I don't think Tony can hear me, but and then describing the action you found really cool, and not just saying this person deserves inspiration because they hit something.
Yeah, exactly.
I already said this earlier on stream at the end, but I'm about to give Amber, whoever came up with it, because I don't really know, but since I've been a player at your table, huge credit to it, because since I've been at your table playing, because at my table it was just when I as the DM or like if something really cool happens. Normally I was like, yeah, cool. You get an inspiration because I don't know, you really thought of a really clever way to overcome X obstacle, right? However, that that is a cool way to do it. But I think honestly, the thing that should be canon and just written down, because not only is it a huge ego boost for everyone, it really kind of creates this sense of group and familiarity with the table, of just being able to, everyone comes together and at the end of a session be like, you know what, this guy did incredible, like, oh my god, I was really impressed with the way that this guy handled this situation. You had insane RP, like I don't know, I really like the way that you creatively came up with overcoming that obstacle. I would have never come up with that. You are giving someone credit, and we, whether you like to admit it or not, as human beings, whether we can handle it or not, we all like to be complimented in what we've done right or wrong. That is just truth beyond belief. Don't get me wrong. If someone compliments me, I don't know how to take it, but it feels good. Like, I don't know how to answer back. Like, oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
But like, it feels good. Like, it's a nice emotion to feel. And
so
on twofold to that, not only are you making other people feel good, but also, I mean, maybe this is just my perspective, how I see how it might work. I don't know, but as a player, after I realize that other people are noticing what I'm doing, I want to be more active. I'm more proactive in trying to do those cool things.
Positive reinforcement. Yeah. It's all about Skinner, you know?
Yeah. Training all my players, like I'm like Pavlov here, throwing inspiration out, and all my players just start drooling. But no, that was the intention that I had. I mean, Fate is a difficult thing, but inspiration was definitely what I felt should be a team building exercise. It should be a person building exercise. It's like you can earn other like extra resources. Sometimes players decide, you know, but like at the end of the day, I'm the one who decides, you know, at the end of the day who gets inspiration. And there have been times where people say, oh, yeah, you get I vote for you because of RP, or I vote for you because you got a clutch crit at one point, and I'm like,
no,
we're gonna sit down now and we're gonna talk about why rolling a crit this is before the UA, but we're gonna talk about why rolling a crit is not inspiration worthy.
Yeah, there you go.
They knew it all along.
They watched the stream and they saw that and they were like, what a good idea there, let's put that in the new UA. But
no, it's incredibly good, and I have to give you huge commemoration for it, to the point where I want to start doing that with my players, because I think that is the best way to run D&D. Like, it is. It solidly gives everyone a moment to just really big someone up, and like I said, human nature, we all love it.
And it's like not too much of a buff. I mean, in Amber's case, we were allowed to store a lot more inspiration than in normal. Like, we're allowed to store 3 in total instead of 1. But I think it is such, it's not too strong. Like, you literally, it's just advantage on a roll.
Yeah, how many times did you use inspiration and it didn't change the outcome at all? I rolled 6 times to try to beat a 12 DC with a +7 and still failed with 6 different rolls.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, you guys succeed a lot more things than, you know, like the average table, probably because you get the chance to roll things with advantage and stuff. But at the end of the day, I don't mind, because we're all having fun and we're telling a good story, and I don't know, like,
you want to give,
that makes me happy.
As any DM that is right here with me is going to admit this, you get to a point with a player, like, they do something that is super critical to, like, their arc, right? Like, they're about to do a test of faith or something, and you want them to roll a wisdom save. And realistically, as the DM, you are saying roll me this wisdom save because obviously you want it to feel like a test. But as a DM, you're like, succeed, please.
Please don't fail.
Because if you fail, I don't know, as a DM, you're just like, oh, if he fails, I don't know how I'm gonna, like, get out of this.
Yeah, no, that certainly has been things where there's just certain things where, like, a fuck up here could mean, or an entirely defeating choice, you know, road of the story where the end of it's just defeat, or like a bad situation, or it could, and you really want them to succeed because, you know, it would bring them that satisfaction, you know, that conclusion, and I think Fate really handles that well. Or, you know, sometimes you have players making a series of choices that ends in the TPK of a campaign, and then you need a new campaign.
Or you have a DM with a very heavy hand, that also happens. It's
yeah,
What
I'm
I
not
have
gonna-
here.
That was
My
just-
hand is not heavy, my
Go ahead.
dice are.
My hand is not heavy. That was like all their own choice, not even mine. I didn't do
it's my
anything.
dice that are made in tungsten.
To be honest, when I DM, my hand is suddenly heavy. Yeah.
Mm.
Suddenly I can't lift it anymore.
but
Oh,
I-
damn.
I'd like to jump on the next thing because we are actually getting through most of it. We're almost at like the end.
Well, we've been running for a while, so this is good.
Yeah.
Halfway.
But the next topic I have is grappling. They actually changed grappling. I don't know if
Oh.
any of you knew the actual grappling rules from before, but they have changed grappling quite dramatically.
I'm acquainted with current grappling, but I didn't know they changed
So
it.
I'm not going to go into how a grapple starts because I'm going to do that in unarmed strikes, which is the next topic. But grappling now means if you're grappled, you have a 0 speed, you have disadvantage on attack rolls against any target other than the person grappling you. The grappler can carry or drag you. The grappler suffers the slowed condition while moving unless you're tiny or 2 sizes smaller than it. And to escape it, you actually need to beat a grapple DC instead of
A contested check.
instead of a contested check. It works like monsters do, basically. Like a grappler works how a monster would grapple you. And for those of you that want to know, the slowed condition means you must spend 1 extra foot of movement for every feet you move using your speed. So not difficult terrain, 1 extra foot, which means that difficult terrain is a bitch.
Yeah.
1 foot of
Still
movement
apply.
would cost, I think, 3 instead of 4. It costs you 3 feet of movement. But attack rolls against you have advantage. So if you're grappling, all attacks against you have advantage. All of them.
That kind of makes sense, though.
Yeah. And you have disadvantage on dex save. Which I
Also
agree
makes sense.
on, but I also think that the conditions should be given to the person that's grappled, seeing as they quite literally cannot move.
Yeah. It should indeed
True.
also be given.
But
to
like
them.
also, but also, you're already fucked when you're grappled. Like even in 5e where grappling only stops people from moving, essentially.
Shove prone.
Creatures are already so screwed in the setups where players just do this thing where first they grapple a creature and then they push it prone and it can go nowhere anymore because it
Well,
can't stand up, it can't do anything, and then it's just getting Jojo kicked to death.
Well, that's the thing. I'm going to immediately move on to the next topic because it's kind of a two-way thing. Have you guys seen on how unarmed strikes work nowadays?
Yeah.
It's been changed that if you hit something, you can either deal the bludgeoning damage, normal damage. Everyone's proficient in unarmed strikes. Or the target is instantly grappled. Literally deals no damage, instantly grappled, or you automatically push them 5 feet away or not prone. Thing is, grappling finally is pulled out of the player's favor. For those of you that don't understand what I mean with that, is grappling has always been in favor of player. Like, monsters were always 10 times worse as grappling because creatures that had a high strength never had proficiency in athletics. They had the strength, but they never had proficiency. But now, if you grapple someone, the escape DC for the grapple is simply 8 plus your strength plus your proficiency bonus. It doesn't have to be high, but this also allows weak players, so like not strong players, to grapple someone. Like just a hit and you grapple. You don't need to beat their 8 strength.
Even Tokas has a DC of 11. 7 strength gnome can grapple someone with DC 11.
No. His DC would be 8.
It's a -2 and he has +3.
Oh, then it'd be
wait,
9.
It's actually 8 plus. Yeah, it's 9. Oh, poor Tokas. I'm sorry, B.
I mean,
thought you were
but
higher.
you're still grappling. Someone needs to use their action to get out.
Yeah.
Then probably I think if they also change it for like in the rules as for monks, they probably would put the dex modifier instead of your inner strength modifier.
I'm actually.
They might.
Yeah, I'm also going to recorrect myself. You can't choose to escape a grapple anymore. Grappling, to escape a grapple, you need to beat the DC at the end of your turn.
Yeah.
So you can never escape a grapple during your turn.
Yeah.
Which I personally actually kind of like.
You
I was
can,
about to say,
first,
it's not-
you can first punish the person.
The-
Yeah, you can shove
Yeah, I
them
was
away.
about to
Yeah,
say.
you
Their
can punch
teeth
and
in.
shove them.
I think that's
Yeah.
like nicer, you know. That's
Yeah,
like
that's
it's not
much
the
better.
you have to give up everything to try and get out, and you might even fail.
Yeah, it's
I like
you
this.
can you can at
Yeah.
least attack the grappler. Then I mean,
With
you
advantage.
yeah, you
Or you
like
fireball them. Disadvantage is what they have anyway.
exactly. I mean, sure, you could do that already, obviously, but if it's at the end of your turn, then yeah, you just
It's
smack
free,
them for free, as it were.
And you can always try and punch your grappler, because again, if you hit him with a single punch, shove him 5 feet away, you're broken grapple.
That is also true.
Mm-hmm.
So you can always use your action to try and escape, but it's also at the end of your turn. And what I think
Also
this
use
way
your
of
weapon and
grapple...
smack him
Oh,
quite hard.
The
What?
question.
Like I said, you can just use your weapon and smack him quite hard. Like it doesn't say like if you're grappled, you cannot use your weapon.
yeah.
You can
That's
use
not
a
use
weapon,
weapon.
but like you could just use an unarmed strike. You can just punch him in the face, and he would be like off of you because
Yeah.
if you hit, you can instantly shove them.
But it's funner
Yeah.
to smack him in the face with a great axe.
Yeah, I mean, that's still an option.
Also
Uh,
do that, yes.
Yeah.
Like
And,
I have
well,
advantage on you, so fuck off.
I think the barbarian mains might be quite upset about this, because I mean the grappler was the barbarian. Let's not dance around it. Barbarian, rage, advantage on grappling checks, expertise in it if you were really a grappler. Nothing could
You're gonna
escape
have
you.
a pretty decent DC here anyway. Like
Yeah, you'll still
easily,
have a
as a barbarian, and like it's still worth it. You know, if you want to be the one to take the hits, they have disadvantage on hitting anyone except you. Who they have
Yeah, yeah.
advantage on, so you know,
It's-
and you're the barbarian, you have danger sense, so you have advantage on those deck saves anyway if you can see them. So it's
And-
like a normal deck save.
I mean, yeah, it's still good. Like it's
But-
still good, but you know it's nerfed.
Mhm.
It's still
Yeah, it's
it's not as good, and
Yeah,
I'm happy it's
yeah.
nerfed.
I mean,
I know I played a grappler as my very first character. That thing was the bane of my DM's existence.
mhm.
I luckily have not come across a grappler yet. In fact, my players don't really even use grapple, so
yeah.
Be
Yeah, most
happy.
people don't. Like I think most people just know that it's like one of those things that you just
Don't.
shouldn't really do
Yeah.
at the table. You know, it's like stories that DMs cry.
Unspoken
because-
rule: ignore this, or
Yeah.
else it will smite you to the ground.
That
Exactly.
story of the one DM who cried because they had this like chase encounter and they just grappled the person immediately and the encounter was over.
I'm
It's
trying
like
to shut up about ruining a DM
It's-
encounter like that.
I mean, if we take like last night's Arcona session as an example, it's like if we were using the new grappling rules, we would not have gotten her anywhere
no.
because
no, yeah, you're right.
yeah, because she counter grappled.
Oh, yeah.
Because she counter grappled, and then it would have been like, okay, well, I can get out of her grapple at the end of my turn, but it's at the end of my turn, so I can't move her. And then on her turn, she's just gonna counter grapple me again.
I mean, yeah, but in your case, you could like shove her, then re-grapple her.
I suppose what I
It's
guess
unarmed strike. So you just
what it
like,
actually would have turned into, instead of grappling, you would have actually been better off hoping that you can punch her in the face several times and push her back 5 feet every
Yeah.
time that you're punching in the face
Yeah.
until you've
Which
gotten
is-
her into
which
the
is-
dome.
which is why I'm excited and worried for monks.
I mean, yes, exactly for monks. I mean, I guess the specific thing is that you need to choose at least which
Yeah.
one of these you want to do. Unless you have Tavern Brawler. Yeah, that is true. Though, actually, Tavern Brawler, it's...
when you hit a creature as part of the unarmed with an unarmed strike as part of the attack action, you can
Oh,
deal
yeah,
damage
yep,
and
yep.
push it.
Mhm.
Yep.
And
Yep,
if
yep,
you
yep.
combine that with the open flurry, this monk's like, oh
Yeah.
wow, the guy's like the guy's at a cliff, like
Yeah.
what 60 feet away.
yeah.
And then-
Yeah, it's pretty brutal.
Oh, boy.
I mean,
I mean,
yeah, I like the new
man,
grapple
I'm
though.
gonna shove him 60 feet in one turn.
Yeah. I think...
It's a lot
I
of
think...
friction burn that you're creating there. I'm gonna say that you ignite if you move this fast.
Yeah, I think it's it's some interesting changes. The part as we said, like, should really feels like the grapplee, I guess. Yes, the person being grappled should also suffer some of the disadvantages that the grappler is
Yeah.
suffering.
I think I make it too strong, but yeah, I do think it should logically.
Yeah.
Mm.
But I mean, hey, yeah, it can be interesting, and then also the whole kind of revamp of unarmed strikes.
Yeah, and I do like it so far. I really like this change, but also the unarmed strike. I don't know what they're gonna do with monks. I fear a bit for the monks. Not for them because it's bad, but it's really good for them. But also, it's really good for them. Like I don't like. I like people being controlled, but I don't know if you've ever had a game. I've pretty much all of us have DM'd. Sometimes someone having that much control over your monster's movement for free, mind you, is pretty fucking difficult to deal with.
Yeah,
Like,
this is true.
especially if you make a boss arena where this boss is like where you make a boss arena, them having that much control can be like. And this instant grapple also makes me fear larger races. Even it's not even a contest; it's just that crap.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we'll have to see what they might literally just they might entirely throw this out after review or change it.
Be back real quick. Any moment.
D&D next is not what we have today, you know.
Yeah.
Currently we have
5e to
DD1.
playtest.
Yeah.
I think overall, I mean, there's a lot of things that I know that I'm probably not going to be using, but there's also things that I do feel like I will be using, to be fair. I feel like I think it could have been significantly worse, so, you know, that's something to go by. I think it's not bad, and I like a lot of the creativity and freedom tools that they've given to players, personally.
They also have made some very colorful choices, such as giving dwarves tremor sense with stone cunning.
Yeah. I mean,
well, the fact that all doors now get +1 HP every level.
Because they said that it's obviously backwards compatible, I feel like now this is going to. I feel like this is going to spur a era of DMs that just like pick and choose, right? They'll have like, I can imagine certain races being exactly as they were in the old set, but then have like random stuff of the new stuff. Like, yeah, you can pick the old race, but you can have the feat, like, I don't know. Or whatever, I don't know. I feel like it's going to create a lot of confusion for some people just because it is backward compatible. You're going to see a lot more people going to tables and being like, well, this isn't how it's run on my table. Like, I don't know.
Oh, 100%. That is definitely going to happen.
So there is going to be less opportunity of a continuous kind of line, but then again, in D&D it's not like every table is identical, right? Even our two tables are drastically different. So, you know.
I'm back. Hello. Sorry.
I'm back. I'm dead.
Oh, I hate you.
I love you too.
So what's next, Mark? Or are we done?
So, no, we're not done yet. We have 2 more topics. Well, really one. We really have 1 more topic. And it's not a big one, but I think it is an interesting one. And I have a way too strong opinion about it. Stronger than I should have.
Hey, like, we're at the end of the UA, so what are you gonna pull up now, Mark?
Literally.
There's 2 things more that changed. And one annoyed me, honestly, way more than it ever should have. And that is that artisan tools, musical instruments, and game sets are all, well, each one of these categories, all tools within are just as expensive as each other. Which for some reason bothered me more than it should have. Like, to give an example, all artisan tools are now 15 gold. All gaming sets are all 1 gold. And all musical instruments are all 20 gold.
Yeah.
It's not the same. It's not the same. What?
Yeah. No, that was my reaction, and it's frustrating me more than it really should.
Yes, let's have a violin for 20 gold compared to a lute.
triangle, which is
I'm out of this one, guys. I could not care less about that.
Yeah,
change.
I don't know why it's so
That
frustrating.
that literally changes nothing to my game. Zero.
It's so frustrating to me. It's such a little
Mark
change.
cares because he hauled around a 7-pound cello the
Cello.
entire game.
I don't carry around as often anymore,
Wait,
but
the
yeah.
deck of cards for 15 gold. What the
No,
fuck?
no,
is
no,
it?
no, 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 no. Deck of cards would be 1 gold because it's a gaming set.
Oh, the gaming sets are all 1 gold?
Yeah.
Okay. Still, deck of cards are 1 gold. What the fuck? It's fucking
but-
expensive.
But it's I don't know why it bothers me this much.
I can't remember the last time that any of my players ever used a gaming set or I don't know, tools they use very often, but instrument or gaming set actively in their play. Maybe like apart from obviously if they're a bard, but like outside of players that are bards, they do not use them. Like
I don't remember the
in Mark's campaign, but we're now at a fucking island where there's almost no people. I think I just want to get some money with my loaded dice.
I respect it. I think it's a cool little
carry
thing to
around
add to
a
flavor,
7-pound cello everywhere. I'm not a bard.
I think it's really cool. Like I was actually about to put a point on that, Mark. Like the fact that when we were in playing and you're like, oh yeah, I play music and write music, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. This guy has nothing to do with being a bard or anything like that. Which, realistically, thinking back on it, shouldn't surprise me. Oh, someone who isn't a bard can play an instrument? Wow, mind blown. Like, it shouldn't surprise me, but for some reason, within the realm of D&D, that is just a natural assumption. So it's really cool. But yeah, I've got to say, that change literally means nothing to me. I have got no points to add to that.
I mean, like, realistically, it doesn't change jack shit, but it just frustrates me for some reason.
It's because it's
Oni, apparently you have half the volume of everyone else, so I don't know if you can adjust this, but that's what I was just told.
That's kind of just the bane of streaming.
yeah.
Yeah, it is a bane of streaming. Every time we have a streamer, like, they always at half the volume.
It's because I have my mic far away.
No.
And I always turn myself lower.
No,
Because
as opposed to you,
compared to you guys, in my opinion.
you are important to us,
Oh.
Oni.
I don't speak loudly because girlfriend.
Actual tools though do get used very often, and I guess
Of
out
course.
of everything, yeah, that does I guess does imply some change because my players do go out of their way to buy like a certain kit or whatever. So yeah, I guess that is.
That's because tools get a lot more versatility. They're not just, I'm going to use this carpentry tool to build a house, but you can also go, oh, I'm going to history carpentry tool to see this construction and see who made it or how long it was made or like how shoddy said construction is or how it will hold up under this or that.
That's-
Hello, Xanathars.
Best
But yeah.
D&D supplement, period.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh,
Praise
yeah,
on
you-
Xanathar.
you
But
seem
like, I can't remember the last week, like, I can't remember a week that my players haven't used a fucking instrument. My other group, who are, only one of them is a bard, but all of them play instruments, and they just sit there for hours talking about the show that they're going to give, and like, what instruments that they should use and what music they should play. I'm like, you guys can just do it, it's okay. And they're like, yeah, but we gotta have our act together. I'm like, you can make the performance check.
Yeah.
They deadass gave a whole concert, and now they tried to get a gig in like Clown Town, and then trying to get a gig in like a casino to play like as a jazz band or something, and they just started discussing the whole thing, and I was like, bless your hearts.
Well, with your what you just said, Amber, I want to jump into it because the second to last thing, the next thing is a lot more broad, and it might take us a lot of time or a little time. But the next thing is also a small change that I almost read over, which I called true skill. And you might wonder what is true skill. Now they've written tool proficiency, but if you happen to be proficient, if you happen to be proficient in your tool, like Amber said, your carpentry tool, and you have proficiency in history, you can combine those to get proficiency and advantage on your roll in that check. And I love it.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it is.
That's really neat.
And I guess we're getting into more of the whole, like some DMs already do that at their table.
Yeah.
And I mean, it makes sense. Like, if it's logical, it's like, okay, I have this tool proficiency and I have this skill proficiency, and I'm looking into this very specific thing. can I have advantage? It's like,
It
yes.
is a variant rule in Xanathars.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
There you go.
Good old Xanathar.
There you go.
Consider letting your players have advantage if they have both the skill and the tool proficiency
It's
required
a
for
variant
this.
rule
Yeah.
in Call of Cthulhu.
It is.
Just
Damn, I can't
saying.
believe D&D stole from Call of Cthulhu again. They just can't stop stealing from these other games.
I don't know.
I mean, yeah, but that's 100%. Like, why shouldn't you be allowed advantage on that?
Well, yeah. And that's all really. And minors, I've skipped over one thing, and that's tremor sense has been clarified.
I think the runtime of this has actually been pretty solid, to be honest. You don't want it
Yeah.
to be too long, and you don't want it to be too short. So.
No, same either. I have one more question, and that is, I want to ask each of you and myself, what are some future changes you would love to see in D&D?
No,
Like,
man.
like, I'm not saying what are things you expect to see in the next reprint of the Player's Handbook, of the reprint of the Dungeon Master book, but what are some things you would love to see?
Are we talking mechanically or like anything?
Anything you'd like to see.
What I would love to see, but that's my old ass, just have my necromancer class actually back. I just want to play a guy with 12 fucking minions just going in there and just do everything for me. I just love that so much in 3.5, just having a actual necromancer. Like, I get the wizard necromancy subclass, I like it, but it's not the old way I love to play. Like, I just love the entire making a horde out of my enemies and just make them my bidding. Yes, it is evil, I know, but I just love it.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
I would like to see, because I guess I play a lot of martials, I guess technically speaking, that they would just do what was in the playtest and be like, all fighters get maneuvers. Doesn't matter which subclass, just maneuvers or a similar feature. Like with you have a little dice pool, because we're all dice goblins, and then you get like a little benefit when you roll the dice, and just flat for all fighters. I would really love that.
Yeah, no, that is huge. Actually, I agree with that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
I don't know. You're getting me thinking now. God.
And now I'm thinking about also again, give prestige classes a retry.
Yeah, I think some like awakening or prestige, I don't know what term you want to give it, of like a class reaching a certain point where
for monk they could be like if they're like this kind of level monk, give them like level 12 monk and they have this kind of feat, give them a soul class. I'm just gonna rip it out of another game. Give them soul fist.
I want to quickly say
class.
I want to quickly say what is said in chat. I agree, but I also want to include strength in that. I would like to have strength and intelligence be more of an important stat. Right now, they do not matter. Like,
I agree at all.
I would like to maybe see, maybe I don't know, because I'm one of the few people that hasn't read every single word in every single book that Wizards of the Coast have ever created, but I'm a big item guy. I love giving items. I would like to see some sort of very, and this is the key word here, balanced way of being able to give players maybe an item that is very relevant to them at level 1 that will slowly evolve with them.
Yeah,
like a story item that they carry
legacy
through.
items. Yeah. It's
be a thing.
There's a third party supplement that I think I discovered mostly through Amber, but we used in the West Marches, I believe. It was pretty much evolving magic items, something that started maybe a common variety. I think it was either ancestral weapons or legacy items, and it was simply a bunch of weapons that or armor or anything else, and you need to fill some prerequisites that matter with your character, because of course these items are made for your character. And as you grow up, as you develop, as maybe your character goes through an arc, you also achieve something that allows you to awaken this kind of weapon. They did something similar with Vestiges on, I know that not a lot of people watch it, this very not popular podcast, Critical Role. They did these kind of like very powerful weapons, in theory, that had to go through 3 different estates. First, a dormant one, where you add a minor benefit, an exalted, and then an awakened one. And it follows the same principle of a item that evolves with your character, not only mechanically, but also, ironically, personally, for an object, which is a thing that I am really sad about. For example, all your started equipment, that chainmail that you get as a paladin level 1, you're going to sell it or throw it away once you finally get your money for a plate mail. And maybe you have a story for that chainmail. Maybe that chainmail was given to you by your father, or it's a heirloom of your family. And I would like to see more importance given to these starting items and maybe accompany you through the journey that is your character.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
I do a system right now that I call story artifacts, which naturally naturally make a player want to be more invested into their own story. It's like we were talking earlier with positive reinforcement, where I take a character. Obviously, this is so hard to then bring into a book because it depends on the DM and it's so much DM work. Like, it is one of the biggest things that takes up most of my time. But I look at this character, I dissect this character, and then I create an item that is unique to them. Like, I'll give you an example of the previous campaign. I had, for example, one of the characters was called Dorian, and he was a Hexblade warlock. He shared his patronage with a devil. And over the course of time, he eventually found his story artifact, which was like this bangle that he didn't know what it did. It was kind of this secret thing for a while, but then it eventually ascended based on a choice that he made at one point. Because he could have either he could have gone down this pathway of becoming like the next ruler of hell, or he could have gone down this pathway where it's almost like this good light of, no, I'm going to fight for my own kingdom. I'm going to become king in this plane, and I'm going to rid myself of this demonic kind of presence. And then based on that item was going to change. Like, if he chose the demon side, it would have turned into this kind of like demonic armor. If he chose this good side, it would have turned into this kind of like crown that is like based all around leadership and stuff like that. So obviously it's so impossible to like,
it's a lot more work. Yeah,
it's so impossible to create this one fits all theme. But I just love that, and my players think that is one of the best things that I do in my campaign, is give them something that is they will only ever have it because that is theirs. No other player in history of existence will ever have it because it is theirs, and it is completely unique to that specific player. But again, it is just so hard to create a one fits all.
Yeah, of course.
I think it is hard to create a one-fits-all, but I think that they could at least dissect the system and then outline of a minor benefit would be this or this, and this would be appropriate for a medium-sized benefit, and this would be an appropriate challenge to give to them at this level, and this would be an appropriate, thing for them to level up and level up and level ups and so forth. It would require a lot of work from DM still, but it's not like we don't already put a lot of work in. Which is my wish. I wish that this next edition cared more about us. Because we talk all day.
Nice.
We've talked for almost 2.5 hours about player options, and and it's always about players and what players want, and I care about my players and I love my players, but sometimes I wish it wasn't just. I wish that everything wasn't so much work, I wish that I didn't have to stop hosting a West Marches because I literally suffered a burnout 4 times in a row from the amount of stress it was just to host and keep this whole thing rolling, and also keep all this lore in check, and trying to keep these thoughts both inside of my head and also on paper somewhere and try to make sense of things. And I wish that they gave us like better tools.
I think a
better
DM
tools
talk
for
is
building my
needed
own
at some
things.
point. Maybe that could be a different episode. A DM talk is definitely needed.
As a player/DM since 3.5, like for ages, is always. For the DMs, just like starting at 2.5 already, get bent.
I mean,
that
one
is
thing.
literally what they started to do.
I mean, one thing is like, okay, I know they gave us this beautiful book right here. Like, I have
read it. I don't know.
I have read it a couple of times, and you know what? It's disappointing. If you really think about it, there is still not much in here that helps you. And like, there's a lot of lore in here. It's like a lot of tables. Really give it a read through. Like, if you never actually read the DMG and you DM, read it. It's actually a really fun read. You learn about the planes. You learn about how to make dungeons, how to make interesting stuff. But I really want 3 of these. Give us a Dungeon Master book set.
Handbook.
Not just that I have one of these that tries to explain to me how I need to DM a campaign for 4 years, but give me a book that has what Amber said. Give me those guidelines, give me, and what you said, Brendan, like give me all those guidelines in way more detail, so I don't need to panic and what Amber said, be stressed out because I have to host D&D. I mean, that's not something you should ever have.
Even just some of the not just the DMG like rules, but also just setting books. Gorgeous book. Yeah. Nice player options again. Nice player dark gifts again. Really nice layout of some of the dark domains. They've decided to change some of the dark domains that have been the same way for like 20, 30 years. But then they change them, and then they give us 3 pages on each of these dark domains, and like half of one of the pages is, a map of that dark domain, and then the 2 pages are dedicated to like personality traits of the Dark Lord that rules the domain. But there's nothing here. Like if I just had this book, there's nothing here for me to run an entire campaign in this dark domain. There's only like an outline, and it's like,
I mean,
figure everything out yourself, Dungeon Master.
I mean,
or go on the Mistypedia. That's where you can find all the stuff from 30 years ago.
I even have that with this book. It's Ghost of Saltmarsh. Only reason I've never hosted or used anything out of this book. I will say I've never used anything out of this book. Fucking cover! It looks so awesome. But that's why I bought it. That's the only reason I bought it. But I've given a read through it once, and it's just like, oh, these are some separate things. There's not really a big guideline. Like Amber said, help us more. It's not my wish, but I have one separate wish after this. But yeah, help us more.
Yeah, like I agree with that. Just make a new book, as you guys said, and just call it instead of the Dungeon Master Guide, it's like the Dungeon Master Support or whatever.
Dungeon Master
Guideline. And just
Dungeon Master Help Desk. You can call them 24/7.
Of course.
Help! My players have a ridiculous idea again.
Yeah. No, and just fill it with all of this information and a bunch of tables, and just a big repository of things that you can just look up and be like, okay, cool. It is actually explained here instead of just 2 paragraphs about something vague about a domain. As an example.
I very much wholeheartedly agree. It's besides my wish that I will explain in a moment. Give me tables. I like tables so much. I'm not creative at all times. I like seeing a table. I like getting guidelines. It's nice to not be in the dark. I mean, like Amber said, we hosted the West Marches. That's not the standard D&D experience, of course, but we've hosted the West Marches for 100 people. At least 4 of us here have.
I would say that 60% of my West Marches content was generated from Pathfinder 2 tables from a third party. Yep, I use Pathfinders because Raging Swan Press makes I don't even get paid by them, but I'm gonna just plug them because they make amazing PDFs full of rolling tables for anything from arches to floors to wilderness things, and it just gives you these little ideas, and it's like, oh, it's a crack in the ground, and steam comes out of it. It's instantly ideas in my head. And I could just, it was really good for learning how to improvise things.
Like a cool ghost village.
A cool ghost village came out of nowhere. A village that's ruled by a vampire named Hugo, and he's like a dark lord, and he's trapped there, and his curse and his punishment is that everybody in the dark domain looks like the woman that he loved and that he ran away from.
Are you okay, Amber? Do you need to speak to someone? Is it okay?
I want to speak to Hugo as well.
I'm already speaking to someone. No, I think, and I'm gonna just say the last wish I have is really a wish I have, because I know rarely do players give a shit, but I love base / kingdom building / a faction system. My favorite thing is Stars Without Numbers Stars Without Numbers is one of the things I host. Has a very relatively easy faction system. Is super interesting. I once read that's what I searched this for. Is how do I make a city where there's a thieves guild that tries to overtake there's a thieves guild faction and they try to overtake the ruling class faction, blah, blah, blah. And that's not in here. Like faction kingdom and base
Turns.
stuff. I want those. I want those in a nice, neat little book where I can understand it and where I can have my parents say like, look, this is a base. This is cool things you can pick for your house.
Let me grab a book for that actually says those kind of things of affections.
I have one. It's called Stars Without Numbers. It's PDF.
Mhm.
Yeah, I also have one. It's called
What's called Worlds Without Numbers is the new one.
it's called
Call of Cthulhu.
It actually has a
Tony's always just
like
pulling the
a-
Call of Cthulhu
uh,
everywhere. He's like, yes, there is, in fact,
it actually
Yeah.
has
Cthulhu
like
and world-ending
four-
threats, but
it
also
has-
here's
it
factions.
has 4 chapters about factions because you have with the cultists you can combine. You can have with this, with that. There's so many factions you can just combine with.
But that's really, I think, most of our wishes.
Yeah.
I like this was our first try doing something like this, so if you enjoyed it, let us know. I think it'd be cool to have not just to not just have Brandon here, but have like other guests possibly in the future. I think if
we'll
that
just
Come back,
replace
Brandon.
him.
Yeah,
I
you
will
can
just
just
No,
read me
replace
off.
him.
No,
And then just got
no.
beyond.
No, but like I feel like this cast will definitely shift around anyway.
Yeah.
But if the next one D&D UA comes out, I'm pretty sure we might discuss it like this. Maybe not on Saturday because hopefully I'll be hosting my D&D
Mhm.
game on Saturday. But we'll see.
Probably not in 2 weeks.
No, but we'll see. We'll see when the UA
You
comes
can just
out.
replace me with an actual competent person, and then
What? No.
Wow, you're
If you want,
competent.
like you're
You're more
competent. You're
competent
like
than I am.
we
You
just
know,
have to
from
see who's
yesterday and
time.
listen to his recap, so like that was
That's
really
true.
nice. I felt like feelings in my heart, like wow, what a nice recap.
If
I
any of
made
you
a
are
new
interested,
intro.
if any of you are interested in West Marches of TaleChasers, let us know. We're never gonna host it, but let us know anyway.
Yeah, no.
Uh,
I will
Uh,
never do this again.
I will say at the same time, honestly, we need a Caracosta recap one of these just so we can kind of like
Yeah, we should do
revisit
that again
things
sometime.
and
We're never gonna be able to like just
find the
encompass the
time.
craziness of a West Marches that just spun
Yeah.
out of control.
We like I will say that West Marches, we did get a lot of compliments on. Like
Yeah.
that was for all of us the first time doing a West Marches, and we had 100 players. Our server right now, our community is still remnants of it.
Mhm.
Of course, not the entirety of it, but it was good. But yeah, I think that is it.
Ones are
Again,
still here, so
what
Yeah,
did you
some
say?
of the people are still here,
the good ones are still here. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, like the cool ones. If you want to suggest things, like suggest us maybe topics for the next time, like if you have a cool suggestion, like this topic's interesting, let us know.
If you want to
If
join, let us know. Like you
if
don't have to be
you
a dungeon master. You can be
yeah,
a player.
if you
Players are
want to
nice.
join, let us know. If you want, Brandon to not feel bad and tell him that he should be a permanent member, also let us know.
Become a tail chaser. Become
a tail chaser.
Place a little long rest. Look, you see, I got the little long rest logo because I went into the elements of the
Yeah,
of
she
the wind and
literally
I stole it.
NFT of the long
stole
I
rest.
stole your
assets.
logo from your.
You could have just asked me.
I could have asked. I went to search through the thing. I was like, "This is too much effort," so I just like went through the inspect elements
Just
because I'm
steal
a
it.
hacker.
It's too much
you see.
effort to ask.
I'm a hacker, you see, and then I put this together.
Media people. It's
Sorry,
just
we already took a DM.
Well, we're
As
not
my
gonna
teacher
permanently
say,
take them.
good artists copy, great artists steal, and it's the same thing for dungeon masters. Steal, 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 like
Steal
to your
people.
Oh
heart's
yeah,
content.
100%.
Yeah, I
Steal
want a
people,
stealing
steal content,
supplement that
steal
teaches me how
ideas,
to steal
steal
well.
my
Yeah.
inspiration rules. They work for everyone. Just ask me for no. Steal them. Steal them. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Oh, but yeah, like I think, like Brandon said, it was a good time. I honestly hoped to be around this time. Like I didn't try to drag it out, but I really hoped we would hit about this amount of time, that it wouldn't be like an hour stream. But yeah, let us know. We have a Discord. Feel free to let us know if you want to hear more of these. We might post this on YouTube. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll probably like just put the VOD on YouTube.
But
I think
I think
it's best if we put it on the view.
I think Calamica will be posted from next Tuesday. Our sessions will go live, right?
Monday.
Tony? Monday, yeah, Monday.
Yeah.
Sorry. From next Monday, the sessions will go live.
AKA we start posting at the 29th of August. Calamica will come online.
Yeah. Well.
Oh my God! It's Orko Markio. He was
Yeah.
there so many years ago. Hello.
Welcome.
Yeah, it
It's been
wasn't
so long.
yesterday.
Man,
It's
this
been
is
so
what I
long.
really missed.
Now
Yes.
I really want to make a Caracos I remember like BOD. That'd be so cool.
For another time,
Yes.
and also do the time. Yes.
Yeah,
I think it's for best now if we sign off.
Yeah,
We are
definitely.
signing
Yes.
off.
So
Uh,
goodbye.
Hope to catch you
everyone.
next time.
Thanks for
Yes.
watching, and see you
Have
next
a good
time behind
evening.
the tail.
Bye.
Have a good.
See ya.
Bye bye.